After losing her parents, the young woman's world revolved around her beloved grandpa. He was her only family, a comforting presence in her lonely life. She always strived to fulfill his wishes, cherishing their bond deeply. However, her world shattered upon learning her grandpa had pancreatic cancer, and she realized their time was running out. His heartfelt wish, before his time was up, was to walk Yoonseol down the aisle, a desire that weighed heavily on her. Yoonseol pondered his words, a mix of surprise and apprehension swirling within her. The shocking realization hit her. Her grandpa wanted to see her get married. Walking through the university campus, Yoonseol couldn't fathom why. Of all things, marriage was his last wish. She understood his worry for her future was behind this wish to see her settled. Yet with her aunt and uncle still around, and feeling too young, Yoonseol reluctantly turned to dating apps, swiping through profiles. Her friend Seokhyun approached, casually asking Yoonseol if she wanted to grab something to eat. Suddenly determined, Yoonseol grabbed Seokhyun's arm, surprising him, and insisted he come with her. As she resolutely pulled him along, Seokhyun, bewildered, wondered if she was upset because he was late again, promising to be early next time. Yoonseol, blushing, called Seokhyun's name, making him look at her with nervous anticipation. With a thumping heart for Seokhyun, Yoonseol blurted out a marriage proposal, taking him completely by surprise. Seokhyun, overcome with joy, enthusiastically shouted his acceptance. He confessed the proposal was sudden, but he would never say no if it was Yoonseol asking. However, Seokhyun then suggested they marry when they're 30, laughing that he felt too young now, leaving Yoonseol utterly dumbfounded. Just then, Seokhyun received an exciting call about attractive freshmen, a distraction he couldn't resist. His eyes lit up at the mention of hotties, and he eagerly decided to head there, completely oblivious to Yoonseol's crestfallen expression. Seokhyun quickly excused himself, asking to continue their conversation tomorrow due to important matters. Yoonseol, masking her disappointment, dismissed her proposal as just messing around. Feigning playfulness, Yoonseol pinched Seokhyun's cheek, while he, laughing, exclaimed she almost gave him a heart attack with her antics. Seokhyun cheerfully waved goodbye, promising to see Yoonseol tomorrow, still clueless about her true feelings. Yoonseol walked away, filled with regret, chiding herself for her foolish actions and wondering what else she could have expected from someone like Seokhyun. She questioned if he could have taken her proposal more seriously, or if her own expression hadn't conveyed her sincerity. Lost in thought, Yoonseol accidentally bumped into a man, quickly apologizing for not paying attention. The man, irritated, curtly told her to watch where she was going and to daydream elsewhere. Yoonseol retorted sharply, arguing that if he saw her daydreaming, he should have moved, and even accused him of bumping into her intentionally. She indignantly questioned if a simple apology was too much for him as he began to turn away from her. Suddenly, the man grabbed her arm, pulling her back just as a car sped past where she had been standing. He clarified he'd pulled her to save her from the car, not for any other reason, leaving Yoonseol flustered but agreeing. Overwhelmed, Yoonseol suggested they forget the whole incident, muttering that the day just wasn't going well for either of them. The man, unimpressed, asked if that was all, hinting that a thank you would be appropriate, and then boldly stated he expected fair compensation for their accidental kiss. Yoonseol was aghast at his demand for fair compensation for a kiss she felt barely happened, incredulously asking if he'd never been kissed before. He scoffed, retorting that she was the one who looked like she'd just experienced her first kiss, much to Yoonseol's indignation. Yoonseol, fuming, told him not to be so conceited, claiming she didn't even remember kissing him. He slyly reminded her that people don't usually forget their first kiss. Flustered and angry, Yoonseol sarcastically declared it her 108th unmemorable first kiss, trying to brush off his insinuation. Calling him a pervert, Yoonseol stormed off, warning him never to speak to her again. Junyoung watched her retreating figure with an amused smirk, finding her claim of 108 kisses rather interesting. Later, in class, while Seokhyun considered joining a group outing, Yoonseol declined. Other students were praising Soojin's party planning skills. Soojin flirtatiously complimented Seokhyun, calling him the life of any party. Yoonseol and her friend Jeongyoon dryly observed the interaction, labeling them players. The professor's arrival signaled the start of the lecture, quieting the students. Yoonseol and Jeongyoon noticed a distinguished-looking man accompanying the professor, wondering if he was a new student. Yoonseol felt a strange sense of familiarity as she looked at the newcomer. The professor announced they would have a guest lecturer for the entrepreneurship class that semester. The professor then gestured towards the man, inviting Mr. Kang to introduce himself, which he accepted with a polite thank you. The guest lecturer faced the class with a smile, introducing himself as Junyoung Kang. As Junyoung Kang turned to address the class, Yoonseol's heart pounded in her chest. She recognized him immediately. Panicked, Yoonseol ducked down, horrified to realize their new lecturer was the annoying guy from yesterday. She tried to convince herself it was a mistake, even as the professor formally invited Mr. Kang to begin his lecture. While other female students swooned over the handsome new lecturer, Yoonseol grumbled internally that good looks meant nothing if he was annoying. A vivid flashback of their accidental kiss flustered Yoonseol, causing her to instinctively bite her textbook. Jeongyoon, noticing, asked what had gotten into her. Junyoung Kang's voice cut through her thoughts, specifically addressing the one holding the book, Yoonseol. He then directly asked the flustered Yoonseol for her name. Mortified and panicking, Yoonseol stammered out her name. "Why Yoonseol Choi, sir?" Convinced she was doomed, Junyoung sarcastically commented on her book biting, questioning if it enhanced comprehension, much to the amusement of the other students. With a pointed look, Junyoung instructed Yoonseol to turn to page 108, deliberately emphasizing the number. As Yoonseol frantically searched, Junyoung, with a slight smirk, corrected himself to page 10.8, increasing her embarrassment. He then coolly asked Ms. Choi for her thoughts on the specified point, his gaze unwavering and a smirk playing on his lips. After class, Soojin approached Junyoung with a bright smile and a cheerful greeting. Soojin suggested they grab coffee, but Junyoung declined, stating he was busy after class. He then added, with a formal air, that it wouldn't be appropriate for a lecturer and a student to have coffee together, leaving Soojin slightly abashed. Jeongyoon, curious, asked Soojin if she knew the new lecturer. Soojin explained their families were close, and she was used to calling him Junyoung, much to the envy of nearby students. Soojin then hushed Jeongyoon, feigning concern that others might feel bad, though Jeongyoon privately thought Soojin was the one making a fuss. Jeongyoon invited Yoonseol for jjajangmyeon, but Yoonseol, still shaken by the lecture, declined, claiming she wasn't feeling well and just wanted to go home. Yoonseol quickly reassured a concerned Jeongyoon that she was fine and just needed some rest before bidding her goodbye. Seeing Junyoung Kang in the hallway, Yoonseol took a deep breath and called out to him, asking if she could speak with him for a moment. Yoonseol began by apologizing for their earlier unfortunate encounters, but firmly requested that he refrain from bringing their personal matters into the classroom. Junyoung arched an eyebrow, a smirk playing on his lips as he remarked, "Me? I thought you didn't remember me." He coolly denied bringing personal matters into class, asserting he was merely acting as a lecturer reprimanding a student, and warned her not to get ahead of herself. Later, Yoonseol was on the phone, cheerfully reassuring her grandpa that she was doing fine. Her grandpa shared that he was also well, and to Yoonseol's surprise, announced he would be visiting Seoul that Saturday. He explained he was meeting the son of a good friend, someone like family, and asked if Yoonseol could join them. She readily agreed, and they arranged for him to pick her up. The next day, Yoonseol's grandpa arrived at an impressive modern house, warmly calling out for Taejin Kang. As they drove through the gate, Grandpa Choi playfully teased Taejin Kang for coming out to greet them personally, reminding him of his status as a company owner. Taejin Kang joked back that his main purpose was to see Yoonseol, not her grandpa, and then called out her name in welcome. Grandpa Choi introduced Taejin as the son of his late best friend, Dongwoo Kang, adding that their families, including Yoonseol's late parents, had been close. Taejin Kang and his wife Hyesuk were formally introduced, with Grandpa Choi mentioning Taejin's role as the owner of TJ Corp. Yoonseol politely greeted Mr. Taejin Kang and Ms. Hyesuk, offering a slight bow. Taejin expressed his delight at finally meeting Yoonseol, remarking on how beautifully she had grown, and warmly ushered them inside. As they walked towards the house, Taejin apologized to Mr. Choi for making him come all this way. Mr. Choi brushed it off, saying he was glad to see his old friend's family thriving. Taejin humbly told Yoonseol that they owed her grandfather a great deal, as TJ Corp wouldn't be what it is today without his help, a sentiment her grandfather modestly dismissed. Taejin expressed his regret for not being able to connect with Yoonseol sooner after her parents passed away, and voiced his sincere gladness that her grandfather had taken such good care of her. Hyesuk gently chided her husband for bringing up sad memories, then turned to Yoonseol with an apology, which Yoonseol quickly assured her was unnecessary. Taejin warmly suggested they should meet more often from now on, and encouraged Yoonseol to feel free to ask if she ever needed anything. He then jokingly offered to adopt Yoonseol, quipping that she'd gain 2 brothers as a bonus. Hyesuk explained to a laughing Mr. Choi that Taejin had always wanted a daughter. Just then, Taejin spotted his second son, Junseo, entering the room and called him over to greet their guests. Junseo Kang politely introduced himself. Mr. Choi, impressed, noted Junseo's resemblance to Taejin and remarked on how quickly time flies, making him feel old. Hyesuk then proudly announced the arrival of their eldest son, gesturing towards the entrance. Yoonseol stared in utter disbelief as Junyoung Kang, her lecturer and the annoying guy, walked in. She blurted out Mr. Kang. Junyoung, feigning surprise, remarked on their unexpected reunion, coolly suggesting it might be fate. Yoonseol, flustered, stammered a nervous agreement about it being a small world. Overwhelmed, Yoonseol awkwardly proposed they start over, wanting to properly thank him for saving her life and apologize for her earlier behavior. Junyoung, with a knowing look, asked if she truly remembered everything, including the details of how they first met. Yoonseol quickly interjected, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. Junyoung casually mentioned she could call him Junyoung when they weren't in class, no need for formality. Yoonseol hesitated, citing his age and seniority implying greater experience. Junyoung raised a suggestive eyebrow at her mention of more experience. He then deliberately brought up her 108 first kisses comment, contrasting it with his singular, implied experience, causing Yoonseol to flush with deep embarrassment. With a teasing smirk, Junyoung pressed further, asking if her claim about numerous kisses was indeed true. Yoonseol finally snapped, her voice trembling with indignation, declaring she was enduring this awkward situation for their respective families, and demanding he not speak to her in class as if they were strangers. Junyoung coolly observed her outburst, stating that her true colors were finally showing, and that she needn't bother with the pretense of being nice. He leaned closer, his voice low and intense, telling Yoonseol that acting nice simply didn't suit her. Later, Jeongyoon whispered to Yoonseol that she suspected Mr. Kang had feelings for her. Yoonseol scoffed, suggesting it was more likely anger. Jeongyoon pointed out Junyoung's differential treatment, berating Yoonseol for tardiness while ignoring Seokhyun's. Yoonseol dismissed it as Jeongyoon overthinking. Soojin overheard and chimed in, confidently stating it was impossible because Junyoung's type was smart and classy girls, implying Yoonseol wasn't. Soojin quickly backpedaled, claiming she wasn't calling Yoonseol not classy, merely describing Junyoung's preferences. Yoonseol retorted that Junyoung wasn't her type either. Yoonseol declared that while she was desperate to find a husband, she'd never stoop low enough to marry Mr. Kang. Soojin, with a saccharine smile, noted the fierce competition for him before departing. Jeongyoon, concerned, directly asked Yoonseol if she was genuinely serious about finding a husband and getting married. Yoonseol remained tellingly silent. Yoonseol took a deep breath, beginning to confide in Jeongyoon about her situation. Jeongyoon was shocked to hear Yoonseol was serious about marriage, prompting Yoonseol to confirm she'd even resorted to dating apps and had impulsively asked Seokhyun. Aghast, Jeongyoon scolded Yoonseol for asking Seokhyun and for treating marriage lightly, insisting she needed someone mature and well-off. Jeongyoon's eyes lit up with an idea: blind dates. She excitedly offered to contact her aunt, a matchmaker, to arrange something for the upcoming Saturday. The following Saturday, Yoonseol found herself at the K Hotel, nervously clutching her phone. Sitting anxiously in the hotel lobby, Yoonseol texted Jeongyoon, "I'm here. What do I do?" A voice suddenly called out, "Yoonseol Choi," making her jump. Startled, Yoonseol managed a small yes, while inwardly lamenting that finding the perfect guy was proving much harder than anticipated. Her first blind date arrived, a man in a loud suit, apologizing for his tardiness and taking her hand with a flourish. The man preened, smugly asking, "I'm a catch, aren't I?" As Yoonseol struggled to hide her discomfort. The scene shifts. Another Saturday, another blind date at the K Hotel. This time, a different kind of disaster. As Yoonseol reached for a slice of cake, her date abruptly stopped her, warning that sugar would make her fat. When Yoonseol meekly suggested a small piece wouldn't hurt, the man launched into a patronizing lecture about the unhealthy contents of cake. Yoonseol endured his endless droning, her eyes glazed over, silently screaming, "Kill me." On yet another disastrous date, a man dramatically kissed her hand, making Yoonseol recoil in disgust and silently question, Why? Then came the date who spoke of a mysterious entity, following and guarding her. His unnerving words sending shivers down her spine. Yoonseol, utterly dejected after a string of terrible blind dates, cried out in frustration, "Why is it so hard to find a match?" The scene resets. Next Saturday at K Hotel, 1 p.m. A new blind date seemed promising, reassuring Yoonseol about her studies, and gently suggesting she could continue them after marriage. Then backtracking with a polite apology. Yoonseol, trying to remain optimistic, affirmed her seriousness about marriage. But her nervousness caused her teacup to clank loudly. Mortified by her clumsiness, Yoonseol apologized profusely. Her date, however, simply called for someone to clean up the minor spill. The man then kindly offered her a handkerchief to wipe her hands. Yoonseol accepted it with a grateful "Oh, thank you," a flicker of hope igniting within her. A hopeful thought crossed Yoonseol's mind. Is this it? Have I finally found the one? Meanwhile, in another part of the K Hotel lobby, Junyoung was on the phone, curtly telling his mother not to arrange meetings for him without his consent. His mother casually explained that a friend, impressed by his company's success, had wanted to introduce him to her daughter. Just as Junyoung was about to end the call, a woman's voice inquired, "Junyoung Kang." His mother pressed on, emphasizing the strategic importance of the young woman's influential family for Junyoung's business endeavors. "Do you understand, Junyoung?" His mother purred, clearly expecting compliance. The woman, Ha-yoon, asked Junyoung if they'd met before, as he looked familiar. He confirmed their previous encounter at her father's party, and she acknowledged his successful business ventures. Ha-yoon praised Junyoung's achievements, expressing regret they hadn't connected sooner, suggesting her father's influence could have further benefited his company. Junyoung, however, politely excused himself, claiming a prior important engagement and offering a slight bow before leaving. Ha-yoon, her smile faltering into an expression of clear displeasure, acknowledged the unfortunate timing and departed. Back with Yoonseol, her seemingly kind date inquired if she lived with her grandfather, to which she affirmed. He then began to probe into her grandfather's financial status, asking if he was a politician, businessman, or perhaps a millionaire. Yoonseol vaguely replied that he'd always provided for her. The date then smugly revealed he had paid a hefty sum for this exclusive meeting, expecting someone on his level. Yoonseol was stunned. His demeanor shifted menacingly as he grabbed her wrist, accusing her of deceiving him about her background. He crudely propositioned her, assuming she was after money and threatening to call the police if she refused his advances, leaving Yoonseol terrified and appalled. Suddenly, Junyoung intervened, coolly telling the man to go ahead and call the police, then sarcastically asked if the man thought he was scared. He then turned the tables, implying the man was the one looking for a payout. Yoonseol struggled against her assailant's grip, desperately telling him to let go as he continued his vulgar remarks. Junyoung decisively pulled the man away from Yoonseol, whose eyes widened in shocked recognition as she exclaimed, "Junyoung Kang." Safe now, Yoonseol clung to Junyoung's arm, thanking him profusely and admitting she didn't know what might have happened had he not intervened. Feeling a bit awkward, Yoonseol shyly suggested that Junyoung could let go of her arm now. Junyoung, observing her disheveled state, bluntly asked if she was at the hotel for a blind date. Flustered, Yoonseol retorted that it was none of his business. With a knowing glance at her attire, makeup, and the recent altercation, Junyoung coolly stated that the situation was quite clear. He then voiced a suspicion, unless what he was saying was true, prompting an immediate and vehement denial from Yoonseol. Yoonseol hastily explained her predicament. Her grandfather's illness, his last wish, and her friend's matchmaker aunt arranging these unfortunate dates. Junyoung listened, then questioned if love and marriage were truly important to her, and if she was genuinely okay with subjecting herself to such blind dates. Yoonseol confessed that love wasn't a priority. Her grandfather's well-being was all that mattered, and she merely needed the status of a wife. Junyoung remained silent as Yoonseol admitted she had initially thought her last date was decent and might have accepted a proposal on the spot. Yoonseol immediately regretted her candid confession, berating herself internally for sharing so much. She worried that Junyoung must now think she was incredibly strange and desperate. Junyoung then addressed her directly, "Yoonseol Choi, marry me instead." Yoonseol stared at him, utterly dumbfounded, wondering if she had misheard his shocking proposal. She laughed nervously, trying to deflect, reminding him of her earlier impulsive thought about accepting any proposal, but questioned if it really had to be him. Junyoung laid out his logic. They both had needs that the other could fulfill, making it a win-win, and their family's existing closeness would undoubtedly please her grandfather. Yoonseol, still processing, asked bluntly, "What's in it for you?" He replied simply that she would get her status as a wife, and he, his as a husband. Surprised, Yoonseol asked if he too was seeking a marriage of convenience. Junyoung confirmed, stating he didn't want to waste time on conventional dating or deal with emotional complexities post-marriage, reiterating that she only needed the status. Yoonseol admitted she couldn't quite imagine being married to him, yet conceded that rejecting his offer would likely lead to more wasted time on fruitless dates. After a moment of contemplation, Yoonseol requested some time to think over his unexpected proposal. Junyoung gave her an ultimatum: meet him in 3 days at the university parking lot, the site of their first memorable encounter. Lateness or a no-show would signify her rejection. 3 days later, Junyoung waited in the designated parking lot, glancing at his watch. It was 4:50 p.m. By 5:10 p.m., Junyoung, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes, muttered to himself, "What was I expecting?" and turned to leave. Just as he reached his car, Yoonseol rushed into the parking lot, breathlessly calling his name. Panting, Yoonseol apologized for her tardiness, explaining her class had run late. Junyoung impassively noted she was 10 minutes late. Still catching her breath, Yoonseol pointed out that his waiting for her signified her acceptance of his proposal, but she had one condition. Her condition was to keep their marriage a secret, at least until she graduated, fearing the repercussions on her studies given his popularity as a lecturer. Junyoung considered her request for a moment, then calmly agreed, "Very well." He extended his hand for a handshake, formally stating, "A pleasure doing business with you, Yoonseol Choi." However, as their hands met, Junyoung unexpectedly pulled her closer, causing Yoonseol to protest, flustered by his sudden proximity. A smirk played on Junyoung's lips as he coolly reminded her, "Aren't we a couple now? We need to look the part." At a family dinner, Junyoung addressed his parents and brother, preparing to make an important announcement. With a calm and steady voice, Junyoung declared that he and Yoonseol Choi would be getting married. His family reacted with stunned silence. Then his father exclaimed in surprise, connecting Yoonseol to Mr. Choi and finally understanding Junyoung's recent odd behavior. Junyoung's father was thrilled by the news. Junyoung then fabricated a story about them dating for some time, unaware of their grandfather's connection. His mother, however, was skeptical, questioning the timeline given he'd only been lecturing Yoonseol's class for 2 weeks, and cautioning him against rushing into things. Junyoung countered smoothly, claiming their relationship had become official before he even started teaching, which was why he'd resisted her previous matchmaking attempts. He reassured his mother that his decision to marry Yoonseol wasn't due to any family obligation, but because they genuinely loved each other. His mother looked at him, a storm of disbelief and confusion in her eyes, silently questioning if her pragmatic son, Junyoung, was truly capable of such love. After a moment, Junyoung's mother requested that he bring Yoonseol to visit again soon, expressing a desire to speak with her privately. Later that night, Yoonseol received a call from Junyoung informing her of his mother's request for a meeting the next day. She panicked, wondering what his mother could possibly want to discuss. Yoonseol fretted about their secret being exposed. Junyoung, via text, coolly instructed her to relax, stick to their plan, and meet him at their usual spot without being late. Incensed by his calm demeanor, Yoonseol muttered to herself, "The nerve of this guy. How could I possibly relax?" The next day, as Junyoung's mother prepared refreshments, she remarked to Yoonseol that she couldn't believe Junyoung had let her come alone. Yoonseol looked up, surprised, as Junyoung's mother kindly told her to feel free to scold Junyoung if he ever upset her. Startled by the direct address, Yoonseol politely thanked Mrs. Kang for the cake she was offered. Yoonseol quickly fabricated an excuse for Junyoung's absence, claiming he had an important matter to attend to, so she had arrived first. Mrs. Kang then brought up the topic of their marriage, confirming Junyoung had told her about their plans. She expressed concern about Yoonseol marrying so soon, given her unfinished studies. Yoonseol reiterated their agreement to keep the marriage secret until her graduation. Suddenly, Mrs. Kang leaned in, her gaze intense, and questioned Yoonseol about where she and Junyoung had first met, and why she hadn't mentioned their relationship to her before. Under Mrs. Kang's scrutinizing stare, Yoonseol panicked, stammering a denial that their relationship was like that. Mrs. Kang clarified that she hadn't invited Yoonseol over out of disapproval, but simply because she had a few questions she wanted to ask. Then came the direct question that made Yoonseol's heart pound. Do you really love Junyoung? Yoonseol, forcing a smile and trying her utmost to sound convincing, declared, yes, with all my heart. Mrs. Kang's gaze remained unwavering as she posed her next question. Then, does he love you? Leaving Yoonseol momentarily speechless. Just then, Junyoung arrived, smoothly interjecting, of course I do, Mom. You should be asking me, you know. As he walked towards them, Junyoung confidently embraced Yoonseol from behind, reiterating their supposed deep love for each other, and asking his mother what more he needed to do to convince her. With a playful squeeze, Junyoung then turned to Yoonseol, calling her honey, and asking if his mom had been asking her strange questions. Yoonseol, still flustered, mumbled that his mom was just worried. Later, in the car, Yoonseol questioned the necessity of Junyoung holding her in front of his mother. He defended it as needing to be convincing, though he conceded her verbal affirmation had been believable enough. Junyoung pointed out how incredibly awkward she had appeared when his mother questioned his feelings for her, and even more so during their embrace. He lectured her that actions and body language were crucial in conveying love, not just words, and she should have acted more naturally. Yoonseol retorted it was only awkward because they'd barely known each other for weeks, and he hadn't warned her. As Junyoung's car pulled away, Yoonseol offered a polite, thanks for driving me home. Alone in his car, Junyoung thoughtfully kissed the back of his hand and murmured to himself, I think we need to practice. He later told Yoonseol that to make their relationship believable, they needed to practice, looking like a couple in love whenever they had the chance, much to her flustered surprise. Yoonseol vehemently protested, insisting she was fine on her own. Junyoung, unfazed, reached over and casually pulled her seatbelt tighter, remarking that she was already flustered, and he hadn't even started their practice. He then leaned in very close, his proximity making Yoonseol's heart hammer in her chest and her breath catch in her throat. Startled, Yoonseol instinctively pushed him away, her voice tight as she insisted, I told you I'm fine. Yoonseol hastily exited the car, muttering under her breath, ugh, I should have expected this to happen. Standing alone on the dark street, a wave of apprehension washed over her as she wondered, is it already too late for me to back out? Her phone rang. It was her grandpa, along with Uncle Gilyoung and Auntie Sunjeom, all ecstatically congratulating her on the news of her engagement to Junyoung. Her grandpa chuckled heartily, exclaiming he was so happy and would have immediately agreed if she had told him about Junyoung sooner. Uncle Gilyoung and Auntie Sunjeom echoed his sentiments, expressing their relief that her grandpa would no longer have to worry about her living alone in Seoul. Auntie Sunjeom enthusiastically suggested they hold the wedding in Gyeonggi, promising a beautiful and memorable ceremony. Yoonseol, overwhelmed, could only offer a hesitant response. With a heavy sigh, Yoonseol turned and walked back towards Junyoung, who was still waiting in his car, a sense of inevitability settling over her. I think it's too late to back out now, she thought. Taking a deep breath, Yoonseol looked at Junyoung with newfound resolve and declared, fine, let's practice. As he leaned in, Yoonseol hesitated, her eyes wide. Wait, do we really have to practice kissing too? Junyoung simply gazed at her, a slight, unreadable smile on his lips, and asked, what do you think? He then gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek as he murmured, a wedding kiss. Yoonseol, flustered but resigned, acknowledged, we're getting married soon. We need to practice our wedding kiss, don't we? After a moment, Yoonseol hesitantly asked Junyoung if she could tell just one of her friends about their secret marriage, admitting she wanted someone to accompany her during the wedding. Junyoung agreed, provided the secret was kept, dryly noting she was the one who initially insisted on discretion. Yoonseol confessed she felt terrified of going through it all alone. She realized she desperately needed a confidante for the upcoming wedding, someone to help her stay sane through the charade, and began mentally reviewing her friends. Soojin No was an immediate no. Her jealous and competitive nature, especially concerning Junyoung, would undoubtedly lead to too much drama. Seokyeon Yoon, while easygoing, was a notorious gossip. Telling him would be tantamount to announcing it to the entire university. That left Yoonseol Choi, who was somewhat cynical and reserved, not prone to idle chatter with many people. Yoonseol paused, a flicker of doubt in her eyes as she wondered, can she keep a secret though? The next day, Yoonseol approached Jonghyun, inviting her to a nearby cafe. Jonghyun, surprised but agreeable, accepted. Jonghyun remarked it was odd, as she'd expected Yoonseol to be heading to the library. Yoonseol evasively replied that she needed to talk about something important. Jeongyun's eyes lit up with curiosity. Really, what is it? Have you finally found a suitable candidate? Yoonseol, blushing slightly, hesitantly confirmed. Huh, who is it? Jeongyun exclaimed, her curiosity piqued and eager for details. Yoonseol, flustered by Jeongyun's sudden outburst, quickly suggested they go somewhere quieter first and began to lead her away. As they walked, Yoonseol nervously asked Jeongyun to promise not to scream before she revealed her news. In a hushed, almost conspiratorial tone, Yoonseol finally confessed, I will be marrying Mr. Junyoung Kang. Jeongyun gasped, then exclaimed, I knew it. I knew there was something going on between you and him. Yoonseol quickly shushed her. Yoonseol quickly explained it was purely for her grandpa's sake, and that Mr. Kang himself had proposed the arrangement. She emphasized that Jeongyun was the only one who knew, pleading with her to keep it a secret. Jeongyun, though visibly shocked, nodded in agreement. Jeongyun then hugged Yoonseol warmly, congratulating her on finding a solution to her pressing problem. Curiosity getting the better of her, Jeongyun questioned Mr. Kang's motives. Yoonseol explained he also sought a marriage of convenience, wanting a husband's status without emotional complications. Jeongyun's eyes widened in realization. Don't tell me that Mr. Kang was the one who saved you from the blind date you were telling me about the other day. Yoonseol simply nodded. So, Mr. Kang was like a prince riding a white stallion, huh? Jeongyun mused, picturing the scene. Both she and Yoonseol briefly pondered this romanticized notion. Suddenly, Seok-hyun popped up beside them, having overheard part of their conversation, exclaiming, How could you leave this handsome prince behind? Yoonseol jumped, startled by his appearance. So where are we going? Seok-hyun asked cheerfully, ready to tag along. Yoonseol replied they were heading to a nearby cafe. Seok-hyun immediately protested that a cafe wouldn't be satisfying enough for him, and suggested they get Jajangmyeon instead, enthusiastically linking arms with both Yoonseol and Jeongyun. Meanwhile, at a different cafe, Soojin spotted Junyoung sitting alone and approached him with a bright Junyoung. Soojin offered Junyoung her company and some recommendations for places to visit, to which he responded with a polite, Sure, thanks. Seok-hyun, having dragged his friends to the cafe entrance, was trying to convince Jeongyun they'd get Jajangmyeon later. Soojin noticed their arrival. Yo, Soojin, Seok-hyun called out cheerfully, waving as he spotted her. Oh, Mr. Kang is here too, Seok-hyun exclaimed, then greeted his lecturer, confidently stating Junyoung must recognize him from class. Junyoung dryly confirmed, identifying Seok-hyun as the student who won't shut up. Seok-hyun, undeterred, gushed about how grateful he was to have such a successful businessman teaching them. Junyoung curtly wished him luck with his studies. Beaming, Seok-hyun then impulsively invited Junyoung and Soojin to join him, Yoonseol, and Jeongyun for Jajangmyeon. Yoonseol looked horrified at the suggestion. Yoonseol frantically shook her head, trying to silently convey her distress, while Junyoung calmly considered Seok-hyun's unexpected invitation. To Yoonseol's utter dismay, Junyoung coolly replied, Sure. Seok-hyun cheered, oblivious to Yoonseol's silent suffering. The Jajangmyeon meal was an exercise in extreme stress for Yoonseol, trapped between her fake fiancé and his admirers. Seok-hyun, ever thoughtful in his own way, placed a perfectly half-cooked egg on Yoonseol's noodles, proudly announcing it as her favorite. He then launched into an explanation about how people from Gyeongju, Yoonseol's hometown, enjoy their ganjjang with eggs, much to Yoonseol's mortification as she tried to silence him. Junyoung listened with a faint, amused smile, remarking, Oh, I didn't know that. Jeongyun chimed in, enthusiastically recommending the dish to Mr. Kang, assuring him it was delicious. He politely agreed to give it a try. Jeongyun then turned to Soojin, asking if she wasn't going to order any food. Soojin airily replied that she had already eaten. Jeongyun expressed skepticism, doubting Soojin would eat Jajangmyeon, but Soojin insisted she had. Junyoung then casually asked Yoonseol about her time living in Gyeongju, drawing her into the conversation. Yoonseol looks contemplative as Junyoung inquires about when she moved to Seoul. Seok-hyun enthusiastically explains Yoonseol relocated for her studies and previously resided with her grandfather in Gyeongju, much to Yoonseol's internal annoyance at his talkativeness. Yoonseol chides Seok-hyun for attempting to eat from her bowl, finding his action disgusting, but then surprisingly offers him the entire portion, to his delight, as Jeongyoon and Junyoung observe. Yoonseol smiles, thinking Seokhyun and the other girl are a cute pair, and silently speculates if they are romantically involved. Seokhyun and the girl laughingly dismiss any romantic connection, insisting they are just very close friends, with the girl emphatically stating she would never consider dating Seokhyun. Seokhyun waves goodbye, announcing his departure for club activities and expressing gratitude to Mr. Kang for the meal. Yoonseol also prepares to leave, mentioning her driver's arrival. Mr. Kang and Yoonseol bid farewell to Seokhyun and Jeongyoon. Yoonseol then calls Jeongyoon over, a thoughtful expression on her face. Yoonseol, appearing flustered, suggests to Jeongyoon that they should depart together, turning away from Mr. Kang. Suddenly, Mr. Kang grasps Yoonseol's bag, preventing her from leaving. Surprised, Yoonseol then tells Jeongyoon to proceed without her. Yoonseol protests, expressing her desire to go home, as Mr. Kang firmly pulls her along, while Jeongyoon makes a swift exit. Mr. Kang playfully questions if Yoonseol is heading home, or perhaps to meet her boyfriend, Seokhyun, adding he'd feel sorry for Seokhyun if she already had one. Yoonseol vehemently refutes the idea of Seokhyun being her boyfriend. Yoonseol demands to know why Mr. Kang accepted her dinner invitation. He calmly states their agreement to keep their relationship private doesn't preclude them from getting acquainted. Mr. Kang clarifies he was simply behaving naturally in front of his students. Yoonseol privately concedes their impending marriage lacks genuine emotional foundation. Yoonseol mulls over how Mr. Kang can maintain such a carefree demeanor regarding their unconventional arrangement as he gestures for her to follow him to his car. Her full name, Yoonseol Choi, is noted. Yoonseol silently introspects, questioning what her true expectations are regarding Junyoung Kang. Junyoung Kang beckons Yoonseol closer, asserting the necessity for them to practice their charade as a couple at every available opportunity, his expression resolute. Junyoung takes Yoonseol's hand, pointedly reminding her their arrangement is devoid of any emotional commitment. Their clasped hands are emphasized, visually underscoring Junyoung's earlier statement about the absence of strings in their relationship. As they stroll hand in hand, Yoonseol contemplates that if Junyoung can successfully detach his emotions from their agreement, then she too should be capable of doing so, reinforcing to herself that this contractual marriage was her own choice. Junyoung observes that Yoonseol still appears noticeably uneasy when they hold hands. As they approach his vehicle, Junyoung dryly remarks he presumed she'd be adept at hand-holding, given her supposed experience of 108 kisses. Yoonseol internally resolves not to complain or become upset. Yoonseol inwardly rationalizes that there's no harm in humoring him for once, and offers a somewhat flustered apology. Yoonseol interlaces her fingers with Junyoung's, tentatively asking if this makes them appear more like a genuine couple, thinking a little effort couldn't hurt. Junyoung demonstrates an alternative way of holding hands, fingers loosely intertwined, and queries which style she perceives as more romantic. Yoonseol appears slightly taken aback. Junyoung affirms this method of hand-holding is preferable, while Yoonseol internally reminds herself that all these pretenses are for her grandfather's sake. Yoonseol messages Jeongyoon, clarifying that her marriage to Junyoung is purely for appearances and lacks genuine affection. Jeongyoon expresses apprehension that this arrangement might create further complications. Yoonseol inquires about Jeongyoon's cryptic warning. Jeongyoon elaborates that while the marriage serves a mutual purpose, she worries if Yoonseol will be trapped in this charade indefinitely. Jeongyoon highlights Mr. Kang's astuteness as a businessman, suggesting he has meticulously planned his actions, and prompts Yoonseol to consider if she has done likewise. Yoonseol sits, her gaze fixed on her phone, lost in thought, and concedes to herself that she genuinely has no idea where this marriage is ultimately leading. Yoonseol starts to wonder if Jeongyoon's concerns are valid, and if Junyoung is solely dictating the terms of their arrangement, leaving her merely to follow. Inside the car, Junyoung presents a clipboard to Yoonseol, who eyes it with curiosity and asks what it is. Junyoung informs Yoonseol it's a contract, offering her a copy as they sit inside the vehicle. Junyoung explains that, akin to business transactions requiring formal agreements, their marriage also necessitates a contract, revealing a document titled Marriage Contract, outlining their terms. Yoonseol examines the contract, a bead of perspiration on her cheek, as Junyoung asserts it's for their collective benefit and urges her to review it before further discussion. Yoonseol acknowledges to Junyoung that a formal contract seems logical given their unusual circumstances. Junyoung reviews the first clause regarding the secrecy of their marriage, proposing a modification to specify the status of the marriage. Yoonseol, adopting a studious demeanor, concurs with the first point but asserts that since Junyoung informed his friend, it's only fair she inform hers. Minjun, surprised he even has one. Junyoung readily agrees to the second stipulation. Maintaining the facade of a lecturer and student relationship is acceptable. Yoonseol offers an apology for her overreaction the previous day, to which Junyoung retorts that she is the one consistently behaving strangely. Yoonseol addresses the third clause concerning personal lives, contending that since their marriage isn't genuine, there's no need to share details about their respective friends or private affairs. Junyoung sarcastically implies this clause is merely a convenience for Yoonseol to continue her interactions with her supposed boyfriend, Seokhyun, a notion Yoonseol finds utterly preposterous. Junyoung objects to the fourth point, arguing their lack of affection will arouse suspicion, though he concedes constant displays aren't necessary. Yoonseol reiterates her aversion to being unexpectedly grabbed from behind. Yoonseol insists Junyoung must provide advance notice before any public displays of affection. He deems this cumbersome, preferring spontaneity, but Yoonseol counters that planning is feasible given their infrequent family encounters. Junyoung casually mentions there's something he neglected to tell Yoonseol. Junyoung informs a visibly shocked Yoonseol that his mother expects them to reside with his parents until she completes her graduation. Junyoung clarifies this is a non-negotiable condition set by his mother. Yoonseol exclaims he should have informed her earlier, to which he simply responds that he forgot. Junyoung proposes omitting points 4 and 5 from the contract. Yoonseol stammers, questioning if they are truly proceeding, while Junyoung calmly accepts point 6 regarding the marriage's dissolution upon her grandfather's passing. Yoonseol, depicted as a bewildered floating head, demands to know why point 5 must be omitted. Junyoung, also a floating head with a smug expression, queries if it's because it's irrelevant. Junyoung leans provocatively close to Yoonseol, a smirk playing on his lips, and asks if she is perhaps afraid he might attempt something. Yoonseol appears visibly flustered. Junyoung continues his teasing, questioning if Yoonseol is actually concerned that she herself might get carried away by the situation. Junyoung remarks that it's quite normal for newlyweds to become carried away, which causes Yoonseol to blush intensely as her mind conjures an 18+++ scenario. Amused, Junyoung asks Yoonseol what risque thoughts are occupying her mind. She vehemently denies imagining anything of the sort, her face flushed. Yoonseol emphatically declares that point 5 of the contract is non-negotiable and resolutely strikes it out. Blushing, Yoonseol announces she will make some revisions to point 4, specifically adding a no sharing the same bed clause, as Junyoung observes her. Yoonseol firmly reiterates their understanding. This marriage is a purely transactional arrangement, founded on mutual benefit rather than emotions, as she gestures towards the amended contract. Yoonseol taps the signature lines on the contract, instructing Junyoung where to affix his signatures. Yoonseol quickly signs her name, then shyly requests Junyoung to close his eyes once he has finished signing. Yoonseol, flustered and apologetic for forgetting to remove her hat, anxiously inquires if Junyoung is all right after she inadvertently bumps him during her awkward attempt at a kiss. Junyoung removes Yoonseol's hat, explaining he thought they could rehearse their wedding kiss. Much to her surprise, Junyoung initiates a practice wedding kiss, tenderly cupping Yoonseol's face as she looks up at him, their lips gently meeting. Junyoung explains that the wedding kiss is customarily initiated by the groom, as they continue their intimate practice in the car. The wedding day is fast approaching, and the complexities of planning are becoming apparent, as highlighted by a phone notification confirming the catering service booking. Yoonseol feels swamped by the multitude of wedding preparations, receiving messages regarding decorations, dress fittings, official documentation, and even color schemes from Auntie Sunjeom. Junyoung's mother messages Yoonseol about an upcoming shopping trip for their room's furniture. Yoonseol sighs, feeling completely inundated by the relentless arrangements. While selecting wedding cakes with Junyoung's mother and Auntie Sunjeom, Yoonseol begins to have a profound realization about her situation. As per Yoonseol's request, a wedding dress that is both modest and flattering has been selected, and an assistant begins to fasten it. While trying on the elegant gown, Yoonseol reflects that although their marriage is a mere charade, Her opinion on the dress is still sought. Yoonseol stands adorned in the stunning wedding dress, internally acknowledging that this union, however artificial, is ultimately for their mutual advantage. Despite its nature as an act for reciprocal gain, Yoonseol confronts the undeniable reality. It remains, in essence, a real marriage. The narrative shifts to early May, with the setting established as Jeojae Island. Amidst the bustling wedding preparations, Yoonseol observes quietly, pondering why. If this marriage is indeed real, she doesn't feel any happiness. Auntie Soonjeom inquires what Yoonseol is doing. Yoonseol, holding a package, responds that she wishes to contribute and help with the preparations. Auntie Soonjeom gently dissuades Yoonseol from exerting herself, reminding her of the impending wedding tomorrow. But Yoonseol insists, feeling guilty about her aunt managing everything alone. Auntie Soonjeom asks about Junyoung's whereabouts, having assumed he accompanied Yoonseol. Yoonseol appears slightly taken aback by the inquiry. Auntie Soonjeom expresses her regret at not having met Yoonseol's future husband, especially with the wedding just a day away, which leaves Yoonseol feeling a pang of emptiness. Auntie Soonjeom gently laments that they should have visited before the wedding announcement. This remark deepens Yoonseol's sense of loneliness. Junyoung makes an unexpected entrance, carrying a box and offering an apology for his unannounced arrival, which startles Yoonseol. Auntie Soonjeom recognizes Junyoung. Yoonseol formally introduces him as Junyoung Kang, and he, in turn, politely presents himself to Auntie Soonjeom. Auntie Soonjeom warmly welcomes Junyoung, graciously dismissing his apologies for the impromptu visit. Yoonseol offers a relieved smile. Auntie Soonjeom offers Junyoung a local specialty, Myeonj bibimbap, inquiring if he has ever tasted the sea pineapple dish before. Junyoung politely responds that he has not yet had the pleasure, but is very eager to try it, expressing his gratitude. Grandpa Choi encourages him, noting Soonjeom prepared a generous amount. Auntie Soonjeom urges Yoonseol to eat, expressing concern that she is too thin and might feel faint on her wedding day. Yoonseol worries about the dress fitting, but her aunt dismisses this. Junyoung steps in, reassuring Auntie Soonjeom that he will ensure Yoonseol eats well once they are married, which placates her. Yoonseol looks mildly surprised by his assertion. Auntie Soonjeom is pleased by Junyoung's promise, remarking it's no surprise Yoonseol fell for him at first sight. Junyoung seems intrigued, as this is news to him. Grandpa Choi explains that Yoonseol sometimes struggles to articulate her feelings, but assures Junyoung of her deep affection, causing Yoonseol slight embarrassment. Grandpa Choi cheerfully declares an end to the discussion, announcing it's time to eat. Junyoung reiterates his thanks, expressing his anticipation to finally taste Myeonj bibimbap. Auntie Soonjeom informs Yoonseol she is retiring to her room and advises Yoonseol to get some sleep soon. Yoonseol replies she is nearly finished, and her aunt can proceed. Auntie Soonjeom informs Junyoung that his room is still being prepared and advises him to ensure he gets ample rest. Yoonseol observes Junyoung's polite response. Junyoung enters Yoonseol's room with a suitcase, asking if it is indeed her room. A flustered Yoonseol confirms, explaining he will sleep there while she stays with Auntie Soonjeom. Yoonseol apologizes for the room's untidiness, explaining she hadn't anticipated his arrival until the following morning. Junyoung nonchalantly dismisses her concerns, stating it's fine. Yoonseol questions why Junyoung didn't inform her of his arrival today, mentioning she could have arranged a more suitable room for him. Junyoung gently touches Yoonseol's cheek, explaining that his future wife hadn't contacted him on the eve of their wedding. Junyoung continues, stating he felt he had no alternative but to come and see her himself, a soft smile playing on his lips as he gazes at Yoonseol. Visibly flustered and touched by his unexpected gesture and explanation, Yoonseol stammers her thanks to Junyoung for coming. Junyoung tenderly wishes his bride to be good night, his hand still resting gently on her cheek. On the wedding day, Minjun, tasked with officiating, expresses his astonishment at Junyoung's sudden marriage and the last-minute request for him to preside over the ceremony. As Junyoung adjusts his bow tie, Minjun comments on the abruptness of the wedding, particularly after Junyoung's recent complaints about arranged dates, and pointedly asks about the bride's identity. Junyoung cryptically replies that his bride is certainly not the woman from the blind date he had previously mentioned. Minjun, looking utterly perplexed, presses Junyoung further, demanding to know who his mysterious bride actually is. Jeongyun opens the door to find Mr. Kang, apologizing that Yoonseol is still preparing. Junyoung, however, dismisses her apology and insists on seeing Yoonseol, entering despite Jeongyun's attempt to delay him. Junyoung introduces Yoonseol to his friend and business associate, Minjun Kim, who will be officiating their wedding. Yoonseol offers a polite greeting and expresses her gratitude to Minjun. Junyoung then formally introduces Yoonseol Choi as Yoonseol's close friend to Minjun. Minjun expresses his sincere pleasure at finally having the opportunity to meet Junyoung's bride-to-be. Junyoung reminds Minjun of the importance of maintaining secrecy about the marriage within their workplace. Minjun gives an affirmative thumbs up. Minjun announces he is going to rehearse for the ceremony. Jeongyun also excuses herself, stating Auntie Sunjeom requires her assistance. Minjun advises Junyoung and Yoonseol to try and relax, perhaps do some breathing exercises, and most importantly, to remember to smile. Junyoung turns to Yoonseol, asking if they truly appear that nervous, and confidently states that he isn't. Yoonseol remains silent, her expression unreadable. Yoonseol confesses her anxiety, admitting she's nervous that their charade will be discovered, and that she desperately doesn't want to disappoint her grandfather. Yoonseol clutches her chest, remarking with a sigh that she now understands why some brides experience pre-wedding jitters. Junyoung firmly grasps Yoonseol's shoulders, suggesting they try the breathing exercises Minjun had recommended to calm their nerves. Junyoung leans in extremely close, teasingly suggesting that performing breathing exercises might necessitate a makeup touch-up for her. Yoonseol appears startled by his proximity. Yoonseol abruptly shoves Junyoung away, indignantly questioning if kissing is his sole preoccupation and labeling him a pervert. Junyoung calmly inquires if Yoonseol still feels nervous, as she averts her gaze, appearing slightly flustered but discernibly less tense than before. The wedding ceremony commences with Mr. Choi symbolically joining Yoonseol's and Junyoung's hands, signifying the entrustment of his cherished granddaughter to the man she ostensibly loves. The poignant moment arrives for the bride and groom to exchange rings, a central ritual in the wedding ceremony. Junyoung's parents observe the ceremony, his mother visibly moved and tearfully remarking how well Yoonseol and Junyoung look together, a sentiment his father quietly affirms. Minjun announces the grand finale. The groom may now kiss the bride to seal their marriage vows, to have and to hold, from this day forward, until death do them part. Yoonseol's heart pounds in anticipation. Junyoung quietly tells Yoonseol it's time to demonstrate the outcome of their practice, reminding her to smile as she appears too tense. Yoonseol admits her nervousness, explaining they have never kissed in front of an audience before, as Junyoung gently lifts her veil. Junyoung softly instructs Yoonseol to simply close her eyes as he prepares to kiss her, bringing the ceremony to its intimate conclusion. Junyoung's father cheerfully informs Yoonseol that she can now address them as mom and dad. Junyoung's mother thoughtfully suggests they postpone further celebrations until the morrow, acknowledging that the newlyweds must be exhausted. Junyoung's parents bid them a restful night. Yoonseol expresses her gratitude for the room and the day's events, addressing them warmly as mom and dad. Junyoung asks Yoonseol if she would prefer to shower first or if he should proceed, as she regards him with a thoughtful expression. Yoonseol suggests Junyoung can use the shower first, explaining she still needs to unpack her belongings. He concurs, and they head in separate directions. Yoonseol places her bag on the bed, a sense of realization dawning on her that, from this moment onwards, this room is now their shared space. She observes that the bed is amply sized for two people. Yoonseol notices their clothes, meticulously arranged side by side in the closet, a tangible symbol of their shared life, along with their other possessions. The sight of their intermingled belongings and the shared space intensifies the reality of their marriage, particularly Junyoung's presence, as he emerges from the bathroom, announcing he has finished his shower. Junyoung, casually toweling his damp hair and already clad in pajamas, informs Yoonseol that the shower is now available for her. Junyoung inquires if Yoonseol has completed her unpacking. She replies that his mother had already taken care of most of it. Yoonseol explains that Junyoung's mother likely arranged for assistance in preparing their room, and then notices he's wearing the pajamas Auntie Sunjeom gifted them as a matching set. Yoonseol sheepishly confesses that Auntie Sunjeom deemed her initial pajama selection too juvenile, and she was about to reveal an alternative from a box. A wave of horror washes over Yoonseol as she slams the box shut, shouting Jeongyun's name in dismay, instantly recognizing the scandalous nature of her friend's gift. Junyoung, curious, asks what is inside the hastily closed box. Yoonseol nervously stammers that it's merely a gift from Jeongyun intended for both of them. Junyoung expresses a desire to see the gift, but Yoonseol desperately tries to dissuade him, insisting that it's unnecessary. The box bursts open, revealing a shockingly revealing lingerie set, much to Yoonseol's profound mortification and Junyoung's evident surprise. Yoonseol frantically implores Junyoung not to look, vehemently denying any involvement in requesting such an item. He calmly responds that he hasn't uttered a word. Junyoung smirks, pointedly asking Yoonseol if she's feeling nervous and what thoughts are currently occupying her mind. Yoonseol denies any nervousness, explaining her caution stems from her inexperience in sharing a room with a man, then attempts to deflect by suggesting he might be the anxious one. Junyoung issues a challenge to Yoonseol, inviting her to act on any impulses, reminding her of their marital status, which grants them certain liberties. Flustered, Yoonseol clutches at Junyoung's pajamas, questioning so what. As he deliberately leans closer to her, Yoonseol stammers that they shouldn't proceed, reminding him his family is downstairs, and angrily reiterates the terms of their contract, specifically the no sharing the same bed clause. Junyoung playfully suggests they defer any intimacy until their honeymoon, gently patting Yoonseol's head, much to her internal exasperation at his dismissive attitude. Yoonseol internally admits she would be dishonest if she denied feeling nervous sharing a room with him, acknowledging it is, after all, their first night as husband and wife. Considering Junyoung's audacious actions, thus far, Yoonseol attempts to compose herself by reframing him in her mind as merely a roommate. Yoonseol sits on the edge of the bed, while Junyoung reclines on the sofa with a tablet, silently hoping he will honor their agreement and that nothing untoward will occur. Junyoung calmly informs Yoonseol that she can turn off the lights whenever she wishes, a subtle smile playing on his lips. Yoonseol is startled awake by her 6:00 a.m. alarm, disoriented and wondering when she had drifted off to sleep. A wave of panic washes over Yoonseol as she discovers Junyoung is not on the sofa, her mind immediately jumping to worrisome conclusions. Yoonseol quickly checks her side of the bed, finding it empty as well, and anxiously wonders about Junyoung's whereabouts. The housekeeper informs Yoonseol that Mrs. Hyesuk typically emerges from her room around 6:30 and suggests Yoonseol can wait for her in the living room. Mrs. Hyesuk greets Yoonseol, expressing mild surprise at finding her already awake and about. Yoonseol offers a polite morning greeting to Junyoung's parents, inquiring if they had a restful night. Junyoung's parents warmly return the greeting, confirming they slept well, and inquire about Yoonseol's comfort. She assures them the bed was very comfortable. Mrs. Hyesuk notices Yoonseol is alone and asks about Junyoung's whereabouts. Just then, Junyoung appears, making his presence known. Junyoung's mother gently chides him for exercising even on such a day, reminding him of his obligation to be with his new wife on her first day in their home. Junyoung offers an apology as his mother playfully nudges him towards the shower, commenting on his post-workout state. Mrs. Hyesuk expresses pleasant surprise at Yoonseol's formal and polite greeting, which Yoonseol attributes to Auntie Sunjiam's guidance. Mrs. Hyesuk commends her upbringing. Mrs. Hyesuk explains their household routine. Each morning, the maids assist only with the preparation of breakfast ingredients. Mrs. Hyesuk states that she will be responsible for the actual cooking and informs Yoonseol that breakfast is customarily served at 7 o'clock. Mrs. Hyesuk kindly tells Yoonseol there's no need for her to help with breakfast preparations, given her student status, but Yoonseol politely offers her assistance if needed. Junyoung thanks his mother for the breakfast and announces his departure for work. His father bids him a good day. Junyoung leans in and bestows a light kiss on Yoonseol's cheek, instructing her to finish her breakfast and bidding her farewell for the day. Yoonseol, flustered but maintaining appearances, declares she will see him off, though internally she's irked by his public display. Junyoung compliments Yoonseol on her excellent performance earlier, remarking that she's a natural at playing her role. Junyoung further observes that Yoonseol even took the initiative to accompany him to the door. Junyoung muses aloud, a hint of teasing in his voice, whether Yoonseol has perhaps started to relish her newfound status. Yoonseol quickly denies this, stating she merely wishes to confirm something. Did Junyoung indeed sleep on the sofa the previous night? Junyoung feigns dramatic distress, clutching his shoulder and lamenting his supposed soreness, questioning if he is so repugnant that his own wife refuses to share a bed. Yoonseol angrily reminds him of their agreement. Junyoung continues his exaggerated portrayal of hurt feelings stemming from Yoonseol's supposed cruelty, maintaining a forlorn expression. Riding the bus, Yoonseol puzzles over Junyoung's earlier remarks, wondering if he was attempting to manipulate her with guilt into letting him share the bed. Yoonseol feels uncertain whether she has grounds to complain, given it's merely the first day of their arrangement, while her thoughts drift to Junyoung. Yoonseol reflects on the unexpected difficulty of being Junyoung's wife, finding his behavior unpredictable and feeling unsure how to handle him. Gazing at her wedding ring, Yoonseol silently implores Junyoung to, at the very least, make their businesslike marriage tolerable for both of them. Yoonseol is suddenly struck by the realization that she is now wearing a wedding ring. At the Tay Model jewelry store, Yoonseol contemplates an array of rings, considering a thick one for her index finger and multiple delicate ones for her middle finger. Her selection also includes a delicate ribbon-shaped ring for her pinky. She admires the ensemble on her hand, deeming it quite attractive. Yoonseol acknowledges that it's a considerable number of rings, yet she finds the overall effect undeniably beautiful. The sales assistant notes Yoonseol's rather opulent wedding ring and inquires if she wishes for it to be the main focus. Yoonseol explains she simply wants to complement it with additional rings. Yoonseol makes her decision, stating she will take the selected rings and presents her credit card for payment. Seokhyun persistently questions Jeongyun about Yoonseol's whereabouts, much to Jeongyun's growing exasperation with his repeated inquiries. Yoonseol arrives at her class breathless, expressing her relief at having narrowly avoided being late. Seokhyun cheerfully waves Yoonseol over, indicating a seat he has saved for her beside him. Yoonseol expresses her gratitude to Seokhyun for saving her a seat. Jeongyun remarks that Seokhyun had been incessantly asking about Yoonseol's whereabouts. Seokhyun questions Yoonseol about her near tardiness and notes her apparent exhaustion, finding it uncharacteristic of her. Yoonseol attempts to dismiss Seokhyun's concern with a forced reassurance, claiming she's perfectly fine, while Jeongyun observes with a skeptical expression. Yoonseol attributes her tiredness to having recently moved. Seokhyun expresses surprise and inquires about her new location. Yoonseol laughs nervously, vaguely stating she moved quite far, approximately a 40-minute commute from campus. Seokhyun questions Yoonseol's decision to move, noting her previous residence was conveniently close to the campus. Yoonseol appears hesitant to respond. Jeongyun quickly intervenes, fabricating an explanation that Yoonseol's grandfather was concerned about her living alone, so she now resides with a relative. Yoonseol awkwardly concurs. Yoonseol mentally expresses her gratitude to Jeongyun for the timely intervention. However, Seokhyun then shifts his attention, asking since when Yoonseol started wearing rings, causing her to tense noticeably. Yoonseol internally panics as Seokhyun takes her hand to examine the rings more closely, terrified that her secret is about to be exposed. Seokhyun inspects the rings on Yoonseol's hand with an expression of surprise, exclaiming, "Whoa," as Yoonseol anxiously fears her charade will unravel on the very first day. Seokhyun remarks that he was unaware Yoonseol also followed fashion trends, to which she feigns a look of mild surprise. Mr. Kang enters the lecture hall, offering a formal greeting to the class. Yoonseol defensively asserts to Seokhyun her right to follow trends, and he commends her for it. Yoonseol arrives back at the grand house late in the evening, her quiet announcement of "I'm home" echoing in the seemingly empty space. Junyoung's eyes are shown, as he internally questions whether Yoonseol consistently returns home at such a late hour. Junyoung finds Yoonseol in the living room and expresses surprise, admitting he thought she was already asleep. She clarifies she still has an assignment to complete. Junyoung suggests Yoonseol might find the study more comfortable for working and casually asks if she was waiting up for him. Yoonseol curtly denies it, insisting she was solely focused on her assignment. Junyoung inquires if Yoonseol frequently works on her assignments so late into the night. She responds noncommittally, "Not always." Junyoung advises Yoonseol not to wait up for him in the future and to simply go to bed. She reiterates she wasn't waiting, and he cautions her against staying up too late next time. Yoonseol's phone buzzes, displaying a late-night call from Seokhyun, which sends a jolt of panic through her. Junyoung coolly asks if she intends to answer the call. Yoonseol, flustered, quickly claims it's an unrecognized number, likely a spam caller. Junyoung calmly suggests that a call at such a late hour might signify an emergency and advises her to answer it. Yoonseol reluctantly answers her phone. Seok-hyun immediately launches into a tirade, demanding to know why she rejected his previous call and questioning her awareness of the late hour. Visibly annoyed, Yoonseol tells Seok-hyun his call better be important and curtly asks what he wants, all while Junyoung observes the exchange. Seok-hyun attempts to placate Yoonseol and begins to talk about a club he recently joined. Unable to speak freely, Yoonseol warns him she's about to hang up. Seok-hyun, sensing her discomfort, asks if someone is with her and if she now has a roommate. Yoonseol hastily confirms, tells him not to call so late again, and abruptly ends the call. Yoonseol forces a laugh, informing Junyoung it wasn't an emergency after all, and announces she is going to bed. Junyoung smirks, pointedly asking if he is now considered her roommate. Yoonseol nervously affirms, pretty much. Junyoung bids Yoonseol good night, a contemplative and unreadable expression settling on his face. Yoonseol reflects on Junyoung's routine. He consistently rises early in the morning and returns home late at night. A wave of concern washes over Yoonseol as she questions whether it's truly acceptable for Junyoung to sleep on the sofa every single night. Several days have passed. Junyoung recalls having previously asked Yoonseol to stop waiting up for his return. Junyoung enters the room to find Yoonseol asleep on the sofa, evidently having waited up for him despite his request. A thought crosses Junyoung's mind as he observes the sleeping Yoonseol. Has she been conversing with Seok-hyun before drifting off? Yoonseol stirs slightly in her sleep, murmuring Junyoung's name, which catches him by surprise. Junyoung claims he was merely intending to put her phone away when Yoonseol, now more awake, questions his close proximity. She then mentions there's something she's been meaning to ask him. Yoonseol hesitantly broaches the subject, asking Junyoung what he would think if he didn't have to sleep on the sofa, a question that clearly catches him off guard. Yoonseol explains her reasoning, admitting she feels it's cruel to make him sleep on the sofa every night, and confesses she only instituted the rule assuming they would have separate beds. Yoonseol continues, expressing her discomfort with the current arrangement, stating she doesn't believe it's fair for her to be the only one enjoying the comfort of the bed each night. Yoonseol trails off, then tentatively asks Junyoung if he is amenable to her unspoken suggestion of sharing the bed. Junyoung, looking visibly surprised and perhaps a flicker of hope in his eyes, asks Yoonseol if she is certain about this, and solemnly promises he won't attempt anything inappropriate. Junyoung adds softly that his primary concern is not to frighten or discomfort her with this new arrangement. Yoonseol clarifies that she isn't scared, but rather finds their current close proximity in the bed somewhat awkward. Yoonseol playfully warns Junyoung that she tends to kick in her sleep, then internally grapples with her decision to allow him into the same bed. Yoonseol attempts to calm her nerves by telling herself to relax and to imagine the situation as a simple sleepover, then gasps in sudden surprise. Junyoung unexpectedly pulls Yoonseol into an embrace, startling her into exclaiming his name in surprise. Junyoung murmurs softly that by holding her this way, she won't be able to kick in her sleep. Junyoung holds Yoonseol securely, explaining that he doesn't want her to retreat to the sofa while he is asleep. The following morning, Junyoung inquires about Yoonseol's plans for campus, suggesting they commute together, only to find she has already departed. Junyoung asks his mother about Yoonseol's whereabouts. She informs him that Yoonseol left early for campus, needing to work on an assignment. A thoughtful and slightly disappointed expression crosses Junyoung's face upon learning Yoonseol left, without informing him. Yoonseol orders 2 iced Americanos and 1 iced latte, presumably for herself and her 2 friends. As Yoonseol and her friends enjoy their beverages, Seok-hyun casually asks if Yoonseol failed to get enough sleep the previous night. Yoonseol retorts that Seok-hyun is the one responsible for her fatigue due to his late-night calls. He then asks if his calls caused a fight with her roommate, and she confirms. Yoonseol internally amends her statement. It wasn't precisely a fight, but rather something far more significant occurred. A blush creeps up Yoonseol's face as she recalls that she and Junyoung slept in the same bed for the first time, and she wonders how she managed to fall asleep so quickly. Yoonseol questions whether she genuinely found Junyoung's embrace so comforting, admitting that the previous night's events have left her uncertain about how to interact with him this morning. Yoonseol explains to her friends that she deliberately came to campus early, while Junyoung was out for his morning jog, specifically to avoid encountering him. Seokhyun, his curiosity piqued, presses Yoonseol for more details about her roommate, shamelessly wondering if she's attractive and his type, much to the disdain of Yoonseol and Jeong-yoon. Seokhyun persists with his inquiries, asking about the roommate's age and height, even offering to treat Yoonseol in exchange for information. Yoonseol evasively replies that the roommate is older. Seokhyun exclaims his preference for older women. Jeong-yoon then raises her hand, announcing she has previously met the roommate, which visibly surprises Seokhyun. Jeong-yoon describes the roommate as possessing both beauty and a handsome quality, tall with dark hair, which only intensifies Seokhyun's eagerness to meet her. Yoonseol panics, realizing Jeong-yoon is unwittingly describing Junyoung. Seokhyun implores Yoonseol to introduce him to her roommate. Yoonseol flatly refuses, questioning if her roommate would even be interested in meeting him, just as Junyoung coincidentally appears. Junyoung greets the group pleasantly. Yoonseol's friends offer a polite greeting to Mr. Kang, while Yoonseol mutters under her breath, "Speak of the devil." Junyoung exchanges pleasantries with Seokhyun, asking how he's been. Jeong-yoon playfully teases Yoonseol, remarking that Seokhyun has finally met her roommate. Seokhyun's attention is drawn to Junyoung's ring, and he inquires if it's a wedding band, expressing surprise as he was unaware Junyoung was married. Junyoung appears momentarily discomposed. Jeong-yoon quickly interjects, suggesting the ring resembles a solidarity ring worn by soldiers during military service, an observation Seokhyun agrees with. Junyoung quietly affirms her suggestion. Seokhyun observes that wearing rings seems to be a current trend, pointing out Yoonseol's numerous rings and playfully pulling her hand for a closer inspection. Seokhyun mentions that some members of their club also wear rings, a fact he had shared with Yoonseol during a recent phone call. Jeong-yoon raises an eyebrow at their late-night conversations. Junyoung observes the interaction in silence, his expression unreadable. Yoonseol anxiously wonders if he is upset and if this trivial matter will cause complications in their contractual marriage. Later, back at their home, Yoonseol confronts Junyoung, demanding to know why he wore the ring in public and exclaiming that he nearly exposed their secret. Junyoung calmly retorts that Yoonseol was also wearing her wedding ring. She defensively argues that at least she wore other rings to make hers less conspicuous. Junyoung pointedly asks if Yoonseol was concerned that Seokhyun might notice her wedding ring, questioning Seokhyun's significance in the matter, then begins to explain. Because Junyoung takes Yoonseol's hand, firmly replaces the wedding ring on her finger, and instructs her in a resolute tone to never remove it again. Yoonseol, utterly bewildered and frustrated by his actions, demands to know what Junyoung is doing and why he is behaving this way, accusing him of toying with her emotions. Junyoung coolly asserts that, according to their contract, she is now his wife. Yoonseol challenges Junyoung, questioning if all his actions have strictly adhered to their contract, especially given her explicit desire to avoid emotional entanglement, and then pointedly asks about his own feelings. Yoonseol directly confronts Junyoung, asking if he is truly certain that he hasn't allowed his own emotions to become involved in their arrangement. He appears momentarily taken aback. Junyoung reflects on his feelings, admitting his long-held belief that marriage did not necessitate emotions and that merely fulfilling his spousal duties would suffice. Junyoung had believed that even devoid of feelings, a married couple could function perfectly. He now silently berates himself for his inability to articulate this to Yoonseol earlier. The discussion about the honeymoon begins over a sunlit breakfast. Hye-suk urges Junyoung to take Yoonseol on a honeymoon soon, putting Yoonseol on the spot. Yoonseol brightly announces their honeymoon destination is Guam, a plan she just concocted. Junyoung's parents approve of Guam and ask about the timing, suggesting early summer. Junyoung confirms the plan, and Yoonseol adds they'll go after her exams are finished. Delighted, Hye-suk proposes a shopping trip that weekend for honeymoon preparations, as they'll leave right after Yoonseol's exams. Yoonseol, though a bit taken aback by the suddenness, agrees to her mother-in-law's enthusiastic plan. At the department store, a salesperson fawns over Yoonseol in a floral dress, while Hye-suk, pleased, finalizes other purchases on the phone. Hye-suk decides to buy nearly everything for Yoonseol, who watches as her mother-in-law makes the payment. Yoonseol gently tries to suggest simpler attire for warm Guam, but Hye-suk insists on choosing for now, promising Yoonseol can buy her own things later. Hye-suk admires how pretty Yoonseol looks in the dress and insists she keep it on, making Yoonseol feel grateful. As they leave the store, Hye-suk suggests they have dinner together, an idea Yoonseol happily accepts. Suddenly, Hye-suk is called out by Soojin, and Yoonseol recognizes her classmate with a start. Soojin greets Hye-suk warmly, then notices Yoonseol and her fashionable attire with surprise. Soojin questions Yoonseol Choi about her presence with Auntie Hye-suk, clearly intrigued and confused. Yoonseol panics internally, realizing the awkwardness of the situation given her secret marriage. Yoonseol attempts a casual greeting, but Soojin immediately comments on her unusually different appearance. Hye-suk recalls Yoonseol and Junyoung's wish to keep their marriage secret on campus until Yoonseol graduates. Yoonseol quickly fabricates that Hye-suk is a friend of her mother's, only for Soojin to reveal Hye-suk is Mr. Junyoung Kang's mother. Yoonseol feigns surprise at this revelation, while Hye-suk smoothly acknowledges Yoonseol as one of Junyoung's students, and Soojin marvels at the small world. Soojin enthusiastically invites Hye-suk to join them for dinner, but Hye-suk politely declines, mentioning existing family dinner plans. Soojin's eyes light up at the thought of Junyoung attending the family dinner, eagerly asking if she can join. Soojin persistently pleads to tag along for dinner, while Yoonseol remembers Soojin's stubborn nature with a sigh. Yoonseol quickly excuses herself, citing a group project, and thanks Hye-suk for the shopping trip before departing. An oblivious Soojin excitedly asks Hye-suk where their dinner will be, ready for an evening out. Yoonseol wanders alone, pondering her next move and feeling guilty about lying about a group project, knowing her mother-in-law might worry. On the bus, Yoonseol considers messaging Hye-suk about being late, realizing she can't join their dinner now. She decides against intruding, not wanting to become a burden to her mother-in-law. Yoonseol feels a pang of regret, wondering if it would have been better to join them, acknowledging Soojin's apparent closeness to Junyoung's family. Suddenly, Seok-hyun appears, mistaking Yoonseol for someone else before recognizing her, much to her surprise. Yoonseol is startled to see Seok-hyun and questions his unexpected presence there. Seok-hyun explains he was just dropping off a modern dance student, a usual occurrence for him, confirming Yoonseol's playful guess about it being a female student. Seok-hyun curiously asks about Yoonseol's fancy dress, wondering if she was on a blind date or at a wedding, but she vaguely deflects. He jokingly asks if she has a boyfriend now, which Yoonseol vehemently denies. Seok-hyun then casually asks where Yoonseol is headed, noticing her somewhat lost expression. He follows up by asking if she has eaten dinner yet. Sensing an opportunity, Seok-hyun suggests they have dinner together and gently takes her hand to lead the way. Meanwhile, Junyoung receives a text from his mother about a restaurant, which Minjun notes is unusual, as she normally calls. Minjun identifies the restaurant as a popular, hard-to-book spot for romantic dinners, piquing Junyoung's interest. Minjun speculates that Hye-suk might want Junyoung and Yoonseol to go there immediately, perhaps for a special occasion. Junyoung, realizing the restaurant is a couple's hotspot, thanks Minjun for the information, his mind clearly racing. He promptly announces he's leaving work early, a determined look on his face. Junyoung reflects on Yoonseol's recent bad mood after their argument, suspecting she's struggling to act cheerful in front of his mother. He arrives at Delicia, led to a VIP area by the staff. Dinner, he will be his chance to cheer Hye-suk Yoonseol up slightly, but is surprised to see his flustered by his mother already there. Dinner, he will be his chance to cheer Hye-suk slightly, but is surprised to see his flustered by his mother already there. Unexpected arrival with Soojin also present. Soojin greets Junyoung with bubbly enthusiasm, shocked to find her at Junyoung the Teable, questions his mother, who explains she bumped into Soojin at the department store where Yoonseol was also present. As Hye-suk mentions Yoonseol couldn't join due to a group project, Junyoung discreetly texts Yoonseol, his concern growing. His messages to Yoonseol ask if she's okay, where she is, and if she needs him to pick her up. Junyoung clenches his fist, abruptly announcing an urgent matter and excusing himself, leaving Hye-suk and Soojin surprised. Outside, Junyoung frantically calls Yoonseol, worriedly asking if she's okay and where she is. He hears Yoonseol on the phone, seemingly at a campus eatery with Seok-hyun, ordering food and telling her roommate not to worry. Junyoung's expression hardens. Junyoung realizes Yoonseol is with Seok-hyun Yoon, initially relieved she's not alone, but feeling an undeniable restlessness about the situation. At the restaurant, Seok-hyun playfully laments not meeting Yoonseol's roommate, whom he's been eager to see. Yoonseol, on her phone, dismisses Seok-hyun's interest, claiming her roommate isn't a good match for him, while Seok-hyun protests. Yoonseol reluctantly agrees to Seok-hyun's request about her roommate, but with no promises, as he heads off to wash his hands. Yoonseol sincerely thanks Seok-hyun for dinner, and he smiles, saying it's just what friends do. A sudden realization hits Yoonseol. She forgot to wear her other rings, meaning her wedding ring is missing. She looks at her bare hand, feeling odd as she's never removed her wedding ring before, but rationalizes it as a necessary precaution. Yoonseol orders their usual meal from the staff, indicating her familiarity with the restaurant. She tells Seok-hyun to come sit as the food has arrived, unaware of another presence. Junyoung appears, having finally found Yoonseol, whose eyes widen in utter shock at his arrival. Yoonseol is stunned, silently questioning Junyoung's presence and how he found her. Seok-hyun cheerfully greets Mr. Kang, explaining he found Yoonseol looking down near campus and invited her to dinner, assuring Junyoung it isn't a date. Junyoung acknowledges Seok-hyun as a good friend, while Yoonseol, annoyed by Seok-hyun's loose talk, threatens to leave if he continues. Seok-hyun playfully tries to feed Yoonseol, who, flustered, insists she can manage on her own. Seok-hyun cheekily asks if Mr. Kang is treating them again, and Junyoung dryly thanks him for letting him join. Seok-hyun offers Yoonseol a ride home, concerned about her taking the bus late in her dress, but she politely declines. Junyoung calmly intervenes, stating he can give Yoonseol a ride, as her house is in the same direction as his. Seok-hyun is surprised Junyoung knows where Yoonseol lives, a fact even he doesn't know, while Yoonseol internally frets that Junyoung is worsening the delicate situation. Junyoung claims he's just seen her around his neighborhood. Relieved, Seok-hyun happily entrusts Yoonseol to Mr. Kang, much to Yoonseol's exasperation at his cluelessness. Junyoung confidently assures Seok-hyun he'll take care of it. Seok-hyun bids them farewell, thanking Mr. Kang again, leaving Junyoung and Yoonseol standing together. Junyoung suggests they leave, but Yoonseol hesitates, saying she'll go home later by herself. Yoonseol confronts Junyoung, questioning his real motive for showing up and making things awkward, given his earlier unanswered calls. She questions his jealousy over Seok-hyun, then brings up Soojin's apparent closeness with his mother. Junyoung asks if Yoonseol is jealous of Soojin, which is why she didn't join his mother for dinner. Yoonseol denies it, stating it was to protect their secret marriage and not trouble his mother. Yoonseol further explains she didn't want to go home smelling of barbecue, and planned to return after his mother was asleep. Junyoung reaches out and takes Yoonseol's hand, leaving her wondering about his uncharacteristic behavior. A wave of happiness washes over Yoonseol as she holds Junyoung's hand, despite her confusion. As they walk hand in hand, Yoonseol silently questions Junyoung's true intentions behind the gesture. She wonders if he's merely trying to slow her pace, or if there's more to it, contemplating letting go. Junyoung notices her bare finger and pulls her hand, directly asking if she took off her ring, startling Yoonseol. He demands an explanation, and Yoonseol stammers that it was a precaution because Seok-hyun is perceptive, and she wasn't wearing her other rings. She quickly retrieves the ring from her bag, showing it to him before fumbling to put it back on her finger. Yoonseol, now calmer, points out some beautiful flowers to Junyoung as they walk through a garden. She joyfully calls Junyoung over, enchanted by the fragrant roses. Watching Yoonseol, Junyoung silently wishes to become the person she turns to and relies on. He reflects on wanting her to smile only for him and be her refuge when she needs to escape. Junyoung recalls details about Yoonseol, like her hometown and food preferences, realizing he wants to know everything about her. He acknowledges the powerful, suppressed feelings for her that seem to move him involuntarily, like butterflies wanting to escape. The image of caged butterflies symbolizes his feelings, as he wonders if this is what Yoonseol meant by catching feelings, while she notes the garden's scent reminds her of their bedroom. Yoonseol sniffs her dress, realizing the rose sent from home is gone, replaced by the smell of barbecue. She playfully sniffs Junyoung, who still smells like roses, and he teases that perhaps he didn't spend as much time at the restaurant. Yoonseol looks into Junyoung's eyes, asking if he can also smell the roses, as an intense moment builds between them. Junyoung's thoughts are possessive and urgent. He doesn't want to lose her and wants her to be his entirely. He pulls Yoonseol into a passionate kiss, surrounded by symbolic butterflies, claiming all of her. Summer break arrives, and Yoonseol reflects on their upcoming honeymoon, the first time they'll be alone together, feeling a nervous anticipation sitting beside him on the plane. The awkwardness is amplified by the memory of their intense kiss weeks ago, an event they never discussed, leaving Yoonseol flustered. She silently wonders if the kiss meant anything to Junyoung, as nothing has happened between them since that night. A flight attendant offers Junyoung assistance, but he politely declines, saying he's fine. The flight attendants quietly comment on Junyoung's handsome looks and the attention he's drawing, while Yoonseol tries to appear calm. Gathering her courage, Yoonseol reaches for Junyoung's hand, and he responds by pulling her gently closer to him. They arrive in Guam, greeted by a stunning tropical paradise. Yoonseol is immediately thrilled with their luxurious hotel room, exclaiming its perfection. She excitedly points out the sea view and the jacuzzi to Junyoung, who is busy tipping the bellhop. Peeking into the bedroom, Yoonseol is visibly shocked and flustered by the romantic setup, complete with rose petals on the bed. Junyoung, noticing her quietness, asks if she's okay. Yoonseol, flustered, claims she was just admiring the room and quickly agrees to go wherever he plans later. Yoonseol excitedly grabs Junyoung's hand, insisting he see something wonderful first. On their private balcony, Yoonseol marvels at the breathtaking ocean view, expressing her sheer joy and wish to stay there forever, free from exams and company duties. Junyoung admits he's surprised by how much Yoonseol is enjoying their honeymoon, to which she replies it's a vacation, so of course she's happy. Yoonseol elaborates that her happiness also stems from finally being able to enjoy their honeymoon and talk, as they've been too busy before. Junyoung seems curious. She shyly confesses to Junyoung that she wants to become closer to him. Junyoung lightly teases her, asking if she means physically closer, causing Yoonseol to fall silent, her hopeful expression faltering. Feeling hurt and misunderstood, Yoonseol dismisses her earlier statement and retreats, wondering if she's the only one with deeper feelings and if she's still just a plaything to him. Junyoung quickly apologizes, saying he was only joking, and Yoonseol mirrors his sentiment, claiming she was joking too. Junyoung then tests the waters, remarking that the honeymoon is just a formality anyway. He immediately pulls her into a tight embrace, passionately refuting his own statement, declaring, "It's not." Junyoung confesses that he too wants to be closer to her, his gaze intense. Overwhelmed with emotion, Yoonseol feels a profound sense of happiness in his arms. Later, Junyoung calls out to Yoonseol, asking if she's ready, while she nervously tells him to wait. Yoonseol feels the dress Hyesuk bought is beautiful, but too uncomfortable for her, as Junyoung starts unbuttoning his shirt nearby. Startled by Junyoung barging in while she's in a bikini, Yoonseol shrieks at him for not waiting. She reiterates that she told him to wait, and pointedly asks why he's topless, while he visibly gulps at the sight of her. Junyoung quickly covers Yoonseol with a towel, insisting she change out of the revealing bikini his mother bought, but she explains she didn't bring other swimwear and suggests the jacuzzi instead. Yoonseol blushes, admitting that if it's just him, she's okay wearing the bikini, which makes Junyoung blush even harder. A flustered Junyoung quickly backtracks, insisting they buy her new swimwear since she found the current one uncomfortable. Later, while having drinks, Junyoung learns Jeongyoon is Yoonseol's childhood friend who knows everything about her. Junyoung playfully suggests he could learn Yoonseol's secrets from Jeongyoon, but Yoonseol insists he can just ask her directly. His intense declaration that he wants to know everything about her makes Yoonseol's heart race, while nearby tourists comment on how they look like a Korean couple. Yoonseol grows anxious about being recognized by other Koreans, given Guam's popularity as a honeymoon destination, but Junyoung tries to reassure her. Feeling overwhelmed, Yoonseol abruptly excuses herself to use the restroom, cutting Junyoung off. She tells Junyoung to stay put, saying she'll go find a restroom on her own. In the restroom, Yoonseol wonders if she upset Junyoung by her sudden departure, reflecting on their kisses and how different everything feels after that night. Her heart pounds as she acknowledges the shift in their dynamic, everything feeling more significant now. She recalls Jeongyoon dismissing her concerns about practice kisses, attributing Yoonseol's actions to instinct and genuine liking. Yoonseol remembers asking Jeongyoon if Junyoung might also have feelings for her, and Jeongyoon's ecstatic reaction to Yoonseol finally falling in love. Returning, Yoonseol is shocked to find Soojin chatting with Junyoung, who casually assumes Yoonseol must be there with Jeongyoon. Yoonseol asks Soojin if she's on vacation, but Soojin laments she's there for a modeling photo shoot, wishing it were a holiday. Soojin leans affectionately towards Junyoung, thanking him for keeping her company and ordering her favorite drink, which Yoonseol silently recognizes as her own. Soojin then suggests Yoonseol might want to find Jonghyun, making Yoonseol wonder if she's being subtly dismissed. Soojin is called away by her photo shoot crew, leaving Yoonseol feeling awkward and out of place. Soojin tries to drag Junyoung to her photo shoot, but he politely declines, stating he already has plans with someone else. Yoonseol, flustered by Soojin's speculative look, quickly denies any romantic involvement with Junyoung and bids them a hasty goodbye. The photographer, Mr. Kim, approaches Junyoung, mistaking him for a model due to his striking looks, but Junyoung clarifies he isn't. Mr. Kim praises Junyoung's photogenic qualities, and Soojin enthusiastically agrees, clearly impressed and eager for Mr. Kim to recognize Junyoung's appeal. Junyoung pointedly asks Soojin what she and Mr. Kim were discussing, and Soojin nervously brushes it off as nothing. Junyoung remains skeptical. Soojin, now in an elegant photo shoot dress, seeks Junyoung's approval on her appearance. Junyoung offers a curt "great," then asks if he can leave, while Soojin beams, happy with his perceived compliment. Junyoung reiterates his prior engagement and politely wishes Soojin luck with her photo shoot, making his intention to leave clear. Soojin, unwilling to let him go, grabs his arm, questioning his rush and his lack of interest in her photo shoot. The photographer gushes about how good Junyoung and Soojin look together, even jokingly offering his services for their wedding, much to Soojin's delight. Junyoung bluntly states he's not interested and excuses himself, walking away from the scene. Junyoung searches their hotel suite for Yoonseol, living room, bedroom, even the bathroom, but she's nowhere to be found. Worried, he checks his phone, calling out Yoonseol's name in his thoughts, wondering where she could be. He then realizes with a jolt that Yoonseol left her phone behind, his concern deepening. Junyoung reflects that this disappearance feels different and more unsettling than the time she ran off and had dinner with Seokhyun. His anxiety peaks knowing Seokhyun isn't around this time, and he has no way to contact Yoonseol. Just then, Yoonseol returns to the room, and a relieved Junyoung immediately questions where she has been. Yoonseol explains she went shopping for new swimwear, and Junyoung expresses his frustration that she didn't inform him. She explains she didn't want to interrupt his time with Soojin, assuring him she understood, though Junyoung looks troubled by her reasoning. Junyoung pulls Yoonseol into a tight embrace, admitting his worry, and provocatively asks if this concern is also one of her feelings. Yoonseol recalls Jonghyun's earlier words, urging her to admit her and Junyoung's mutual feelings. Their moment is interrupted by Soojin knocking insistently at their door, calling for Junyoung. Junyoung dismisses Soojin's presence, assuring Yoonseol he didn't invite her and urging her to ignore the knocking, wanting to prolong their embrace. He tells Yoonseol not to think about it as Soojin continues to knock and call for him from outside. Soojin waits by their door, recalling the receptionist confirmed Junyoung was staying in this room, and wonders if he's simply out. Junyoung senses Soojin is finally leaving, but Yoonseol remains tense, unable to ignore the near discovery. Yoonseol voices her concern about the problematic implications if Soojin had seen them, especially after their earlier close call. She emphasizes that Soojin telling everyone on campus would create huge problems, compounded by Soojin's evident affection for Junyoung. Junyoung firmly tells Yoonseol not to concern herself with Soojin. He tenderly cups her face, reminding her they are on their honeymoon and her focus should be solely on him. Junyoung kisses Yoonseol deeply, making her promise never to leave him again. The next morning, Junyoung gently tells a still sleepy Yoonseol to rest longer, offering to wake her in an hour. She wakes with a start. Yoonseol, flustered and peeking from under the bedsheet, nervously questions what happened last night. Junyoung teases her, asking if she truly doesn't remember and offering to refresh her memory, causing her to panic. He then chuckles, admitting he was just pulling her leg. Junyoung pulls her close, confessing he simply wants to hold her a while longer. Yoonseol finds immense comfort and calm in his embrace, listening to his heartbeat. She feels her heartbeat synchronize with Junyoung's, a sensation of becoming one as they share a tender kiss. Later, as they pack, Junyoung asks Yoonseol if she's finished with her luggage. Junyoung finds Yoonseol on the balcony and asks why she's out there alone. She explains she wanted to call her grandpa. He gently takes the phone, suggesting they call together to avoid worrying her grandpa. During a video call, Yoonseol's grandpa, along with Hyeseok and Junyoung's father, expresses joy at seeing them both well in Guam. Yoonseol apologizes for the delayed call, explaining they've been busy. Her grandpa is simply glad they're safe. Hye-suk playfully teases Junyoung, asking if they should expect good news soon, much to Yoonseol's embarrassment. Junyoung, holding Yoonseol close, confidently replies to his aunt that they are trying, surprising Yoonseol with his boldness. Grandpa expresses his happiness at seeing them enjoying themselves and wishes them a safe flight home. Waving goodbye, Junyoung assures everyone he will keep Yoonseol safe. Yoonseol thanks Junyoung, attributing her grandpa's happiness to him and their evident bliss. Junyoung softly asks Yoonseol if she is happy too. Yoonseol smiles warmly, affirming that her grandpa's happiness makes her happy as well. Junyoung gazes at her fondly, genuinely glad to hear it. Back in Seoul, Jeongyoon spots Yoonseol and Junyoung arriving at Café de Mood. Jeongyoon immediately teases them about looking like a couple fresh from their honeymoon, much to Yoonseol's chagrin. Jeongyoon observes that Yoonseol seems noticeably more cheerful than usual. She pointedly asks if something significant happened on their honeymoon, causing Yoonseol to nervously deflect the question. Junyoung politely asks if he can join their table while he waits for Minjun, and Jeongyoon readily agrees. Junyoung recalls Yoonseol mentioning he could ask Jeongyoon anything about her, putting Yoonseol on edge. With a mischievous smirk, Junyoung asks Jeongyoon if it's true Yoonseol has kissed 108 times, shocking Yoonseol. Jeongyoon bursts into laughter at the absurd number, while Yoonseol desperately tries to silence her. Jeongyoon clarifies that Yoonseol had never even been in a relationship before marrying Junyoung. A flustered Yoonseol blurts out that Junyoung was her unforgettable 108th first kiss, and she simply got carried away, prompting Junyoung to question her earlier claim. Minjun arrives, apologizing to Junyoung for his lateness. Minjun greets Jeongyoon and Yoonseol before stating he needs to borrow Junyoung for a bit. Jeongyoon assures him their conversation was over. Yoonseol gives Junyoung a playful nudge, telling him she'll see him at home. Once Junyoung leaves, Jeongyoon continues to tease Yoonseol about the 108 kisses, saying her husband deserved to know the truth. Jeongyoon then mischievously asks if Yoonseol wore the gift she gave her, making Yoonseol exclaim her friend's name in exasperation. Yoonseol then turns serious, telling Jeongyoon she has something important to discuss. Jeongyoon is surprised to learn from Yoonseol that Soojin was also in Guam during their honeymoon. Yoonseol recounts the encounter, and Jeongyoon finds Soojin's knowledge of Junyoung's whereabouts and their hotel highly suspicious, suggesting stalking if it wasn't a mere coincidence. Yoonseol hopes it was just a coincidence, as Soojin didn't reappear, though she acknowledges Soojin's stubborn streak. Yoonseol admits her uncertainty and asks Jeongyoon for another favor, to which her friend readily agrees. Just then, Yoonseol receives a call from Seokhyun. Seokhyun confirms Yoonseol is back in Seoul, and excitedly tells her he has good news. He surprises Yoonseol by asking if she wants to do an internship with him. Seokhyun reminds her about the woman he met on a blind date. He explains that this woman offered him a paid internship at her friend's company, and thinking it was a great opportunity, immediately thought of Yoonseol. Jeongyoon listens, feeling slightly overlooked. Seokhyun, hearing Jeongyoon's voice, playfully complains about not being invited to their hangout, while Jeongyoon silently glares at Yoonseol's phone. Yoonseol dryly thinks it's obvious why. Yoonseol considers the internship. It's tempting as summer break isn't over, and it seems like a productive idea after being busy with wedding preparations. She briefly wonders if she needs to inform Junyoung. She quickly decides that yes, she probably should tell him about the internship. Later that evening, Yoonseol researches the company Seokhyun mentioned, finding it quite impressive. Junyoung startles her by entering the room shirtless, casually asking if she's still up. Yoonseol, flustered, exclaims in exasperation, questioning his habit of walking around topless. Junyoung nonchalantly replies that it's his room too, implying he can do as he pleases. He playfully teases her, suggesting it's perfectly normal for a husband to be shirtless in front of his wife, or even his roommate. Yoonseol, already teased by Jeongyoon, asks him not to start. Junyoung then pointedly asks if Jeongyoon mentioned the gift. Yoonseol, blushing, vaguely confirms. Junyoung leans in, asking if she regrets not wearing it on their honeymoon, then provocatively suggests they do it again then. Yoonseol, flustered by his advances, quickly deflects, saying she needs to discuss something important with him. She tells Junyoung about her intention to take an internship, uncertain if his permission is required. Junyoung listens intently. Yoonseol explains her desire to be productive during the summer break and gain valuable work experience for her future career, hoping he, as a lecturer, would understand its importance. Junyoung suggests she simply do her internship at his company or TJ Corp. Yoonseol firmly states she doesn't want that. She wants to achieve this on her own merit and asks if he understands her need for independence. Junyoung, acknowledging her determination, calls her unstoppable and asks if she can proceed. Yoonseol playfully replies, "Sure, for a price." Yoonseol grasps his hand, jokingly questioning if he, a wealthy heir, plans to extort money from a poor student like her. Junyoung feigns consideration, but Yoonseol confidently retorts that she won't let him take a single cent, not even in his dreams. Junyoung challenges her with a smirk and pulls her into a playful embrace, their affectionate banter filling the room. The next day, Seokhyun arrives late to meet Yoonseol at a cafe, offering a sheepish apology for oversleeping, much to her slight annoyance. Yoonseol mentions she was researching the company Seokhyun suggested, but he surprises her by saying they no longer need to consider it. Seokhyun reveals that Mr. Kang's company has launched an internship program, and their project group was selected due to their high score. He beams, thanking his lucky stars for being in the same group as Yoonseol, who looks utterly bewildered by this turn of events. A slow realization dawns on Yoonseol. Junyoung must have orchestrated this entire situation. She recalls Junyoung's earlier knowing smirk, now understanding he had tricked her all along. Yoonseol informs her parents about starting a summer-long internship the following week. Her mother questions the necessity, wondering if Junyoung isn't providing enough financially, but Yoonseol clarifies it's for career experience. Her father offers to contact the company to ensure her well-being, causing Yoonseol to panic slightly. Junyoung smoothly intervenes, announcing that Yoonseol and some classmates will be interning at his company, assuring her parents she'll be in good hands, much to Yoonseol's nervous amusement. Her parents express their relief and approval of this arrangement. As Junyoung heads to his car, Yoonseol follows, demanding an explanation for his actions. She confronts him about tricking her after she expressed wanting an independent internship, questioning why he then arranged for her and her classmates to intern at his company. Junyoung coolly states he doesn't recall ever agreeing to her interning elsewhere. He further adds, with a hint of a smile, that he doesn't remember forcing her to intern at his company either, leaving Yoonseol to ponder his words. Junyoung leans close, suggestively asking if she can truly blame him for wanting to be around his wife. Flustered but resigned, Yoonseol agrees, on the condition that he promises to treat her no differently than the other interns. Junyoung smiles, readily agreeing with pleasure to her terms. The interns arrive at TJ Corp for their first day. Yomi welcomes the interns to SOV, a startup under TJ Corp specializing in hotel and resort planning, and introduces herself as their supervisor. She explains they will be assisting with a new hotel project in Yongsan for the next month, and opens the floor for questions. Seokhyun enthusiastically raises his hand, eager to ask a question. Ignoring Yoonseol's silent plea, Seokhyun inappropriately asks Yomi her age, prompting Yomi to politely request work-related questions only. As Yomi suggests personal questions can be asked after work, Secretary Hyejeong-yoon arrives. Yomi introduces Hyejeong-yoon as Director Kang's personal secretary. Secretary Yoon offers a polite greeting. The interns, including Yoonseol and Seokhyun, return the greeting. Secretary Yoon identifies Yoonseol Choi and Seokhyun Yoon from the group, informing them that Mr. Kang has requested to see them in his office. Yoonseol takes in her surroundings, realizing this impressive building is indeed Junyoung's company. Secretary Yoon announces the arrival of Mr. Kang, Yoonseol Choi, and Seokhyun Yoon to Junyoung Kang, who is awaiting them in his office. As they enter, Yoonseol reflects that this is her first visit to his office, and Seokhyun politely thanks Secretary Yoon for letting them in. A faint blush graces Yoonseol's cheeks as she anticipates seeing Junyoung in his professional element for the very first time. Junyoung formally welcomes the new interns to SOV, his expression unreadable. He expresses his hope that their internship will be a period of significant learning and valuable experience. Seokhyun enthusiastically expresses their gratitude for the opportunity, emphasizing their luck in choosing SOV, while Yoonseol remains quietly observant. Junyoung's gaze sharpens slightly as he inquires if their decision to intern together was a prearranged plan. Seokhyun jests about Yoonseol needing his guidance, which she quickly refutes by stating he was the one who initiated the joint internship idea. Junyoung concludes the brief meeting, directing them to consult Secretary Yoon for any queries, and offering a curt wish for good luck. Yoonseol observes Junyoung's professional detachment, pondering if this is him strictly adhering to her request not to treat her differently at work. Later, Seokhyun finds a frustrated Yoonseol searching for project files Yomi requested, unable to locate them. To Yoonseol's astonishment, Seokhyun effortlessly retrieves the correct files in an instant. Yoonseol insists she'd already looked there, while Seokhyun playfully taps her head with the folder, reminding her to eat to keep her focus, an interaction Junyoung witnesses from afar. Annoyed by Seokhyun's teasing, Yoonseol tells him to remove his hand, agreeing to eat only after delivering the files. Seokhyun apologizes if his tap was too forceful. While preparing coffee, Yoonseol receives instructions from Junyoung to reschedule one of his afternoon meetings, and she dutifully complies. Yoonseol begins to offer a greeting as Junyoung, accompanied by Secretary Yoon and Minjun, walks by, but he's addressed by another colleague at that exact moment. Junyoung passes Yoonseol without a glance, leaving her stunned and wondering if he deliberately ignored her. She glances back, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. Further down the hall, Junyoung and Secretary Yoon exchange professional pleasantries with another employee. Minjun offers Yoonseol a cheerful greeting, which she reciprocates, though internally she stings from Junyoung's earlier lack of acknowledgement. Yoonseol feels a pang of disappointment. Though she requested professional distance, a simple returned greeting or a smile from him wouldn't have been too much to ask. In the break room, two colleagues chat animatedly, one sharing her excitement about sharing an elevator with a Mr. Kang earlier. The colleague specifies it was Director Kang, remarking on his unexpected thoughtfulness despite his usual cold demeanor, while another sighs wistfully about his future wife. Yoonseol listens, her expression troubled. Yoonseol is lost in thought, tapping her pen, finding it hard to reconcile Junyoung's kindness to others with his current coldness towards her, especially after he claimed to want her around. She feels a growing sense of neglect, as Junyoung not only fails to acknowledge her, but has also been too preoccupied for them to connect, even at home. A wave of frustration washes over her as she clenches her fist, feeling he only seeks her out when it suits him. With a heavy sigh, Yoonseol allows herself a moment of regret, the thought crossing her mind that accepting this internship might have been a mistake after all. Yomi's voice breaks through Yoonseol's thoughts, requesting her assistance, and Yoonseol quickly responds. Yomi tasks Yoonseol with a coffee run, providing a detailed list and a card, thoughtfully including drinks for Yoonseol and Seokhyun as well. Yoonseol mentally chides herself for overthinking her situation with Junyoung, resolving to focus on her internship duties. Rushing towards an elevator, Yoonseol calls out, asking for the door to be held, and expresses her gratitude as she steps inside. The man holding the door is Junyoung. He curtly asks if she's entering and then for her desired floor. Yoonseol requests the ground floor, internally questioning Junyoung's persistent aloofness, especially now that they are alone. Gathering her courage, Yoonseol hesitantly asks Junyoung if he is upset with her, prompting him to inquire what led her to that conclusion. Junyoung sidesteps her concern, instead questioning her lack of transparency about her joint internship plans with Seokhyun, which leaves Yoonseol momentarily speechless. Yoonseol's frustration boils over as she grabs Junyoung's arm, demanding to know why Seokhyun is a constant point of contention, and if his suspicions about them are the cause of his anger and avoidance. Junyoung looks at her intensely, stating that any husband would naturally be upset seeing his wife continually spending time with another man, shocking Yoonseol. Just as the elevator doors open, Seokhyun appears, cheerfully greeting both Mr. Kang and Yoonseol. Junyoung offers a clipped greeting and a swift goodbye to Seokhyun before exiting the elevator, leaving Seokhyun to bid him a cheerful farewell. Seokhyun immediately notices Yoonseol's distress as she steps out of the elevator after Junyoung, his expression shifting to concern as he asks if she has been crying. His concern deepens as he questions if she's unwell, while Junyoung casts a brief, unreadable glance back before the elevator doors slide shut. A sudden wave of realization and alarm washes over Junyoung. He utters Yoonseol's name, his voice filled with urgency as the doors close, separating them. Junyoung bursts from the elevator, a storm of regret in his eyes as he mutters, "What have I done?" He strides down the corridor, berating himself for his misstep in leaving Yoonseol alone with Seokhyun in her distressed state. With a determined expression, Junyoung speaks into his phone, confirming he is on his way. Meanwhile, Seokhyun expresses his worry for Yoonseol, suggesting she leave work early if she's not feeling well, but she insists she's fine. Seok-hyun offers to look after Yoonseol in Jeong-yoon's absence, an offer she dismisses as overly dramatic, asserting her independence. The elevator becomes uncomfortably crowded, and Seok-hyun instinctively reacts as Yoonseol is jostled, a hand suddenly reaching for her. Seok-hyun gently pulls Yoonseol closer, shielding her from the press of people, and quietly asks if his protective gesture is too constricting. She murmurs that it's fine. Later that night, Junyoung gazes at Yoonseol sleeping beside him, wondering if her slumber is genuine or a means of avoiding him, and silently conveys his displeasure about Seok-hyun's constant presence around her. His silent confession continues. He admits to himself that he cannot tolerate Seok-hyun's proximity to her. The next day at work, Yomi reminds Yoonseol to collect an important contract from Secretary Yoon, and Yoonseol acknowledges the task. Secretary Yoon hands over the folder, remarking on Yoonseol's luck that Director Kang signed it before his unavoidable departure for an important meeting at M Hotel. Secretary Yoon further informs Yoonseol that Minjun will be representing Director Kang at the M Hotel meeting, a piece of information Yoonseol quietly absorbs. Holding the contract, Yoonseol can't help but wonder if Junyoung is still upset with her, the memory of their tense elevator argument replaying in her mind. When Secretary Yoon inquires if she needs anything else, a slightly flustered Yoonseol quickly replies in the negative and thanks her. Panic ensues during a phone call at the M Hotel. The crucial contract Yoonseol was supposed to bring is missing, despite assurances it was given to her. In the M Hotel meeting room, chaos erupts as Yoonseol frantically searches for the misplaced folder, her colleagues urging a swift resolution before the client's arrival. Minjun's suggestion to simply reprint the contract is met with Yoonseol's exasperated explanation that Director Kang's signature is irreplaceable as he is not present. Seok-hyun provides a beacon of hope, announcing over the phone that the office located the missing contract near Yoonseol's desk, possibly dropped by her. A collective sigh of relief fills the room. Yoonseol and Yomi are visibly thankful, and Yoonseol humbly apologizes for her oversight. Yomi, while partly blaming herself for not double-checking, gently advises Yoonseol to be more vigilant in the future, a promise Yoonseol readily makes. Seok-hyun explains that while he inquired about someone bringing the contract, the office staff were too swamped. Yoonseol and Yomi are impressed by his resourcefulness. Yoonseol, taking full responsibility, offers to go back for the contract herself, but Yomi realistically points out the significant travel time involved. Seok-hyun confidently steps forward, offering to retrieve the contract quickly using his own car, addressing Yomi before she can protest. With a charming grin and a jingle of his car keys, Seok-hyun boldly declares, "Never underestimate Seok-hyun Yoon," ready to resolve the crisis. Later that evening, the team celebrates their narrow escape from disaster, raising their glasses to Seok-hyun, their hero, at Seoul Grill. Yomi laughs with lingering relief, remarking on how close they came to a serious professional mishap. Minjun commends the team for their successful presentation and the client's satisfaction, though Yoonseol still harbors guilt over her earlier mistake. Seok-hyun tries to lift Yoonseol's spirits, emphasizing the victory of securing the M Hotel project and encouraging her to relax and enjoy the celebration. The atmosphere shifts as Mr. Kang Junyoung arrives, greeting the team, who respond with enthusiastic welcomes. Junyoung announces that the evening's expenses are his treat, a gesture to celebrate their hard work, which is met with cheers from the group. As Minjun pours Junyoung a drink, he comments on their good fortune in having Seok-hyun as an intern, particularly given his recent heroics. Seok-hyun confidently assures Mr. Kang he won't disappoint, prompting Yomi to note their apparent closeness and ask about their prior acquaintance, while Junyoung observes. Seok-hyun casually explains that Mr. Kang is a lecturer for their university class, a revelation that surprises Yoonseol. Yomi leans in to whisper to Seok-hyun, speculating about Mr. Kang's popularity with female students and cheekily asking if he has a girlfriend. Junyoung, having overheard the hushed conversation, interjects smoothly, stating that no, he does not have a girlfriend, causing Yomi to flush with embarrassment and apologize. Junyoung reassures Yomi that he doesn't mind her question, his calm demeanor inviting further curiosity. Undeterred, Yomi boldly asks Junyoung if there is someone he likes, a question Seok-hyun echoes with interest, while Yoonseol listens with bated breath. Yoonseol gazes at Junyoung, her heart pounding in anticipation of his answer. Junyoung's eyes meet Yoonseol's for a fleeting moment before he demurs, stating he's unsure and even doubts anyone likes him, a response that clearly startles Yoonseol. Yomi scoffs good-naturedly, insisting that someone with his looks must have many admirers, even jokingly confessing her own hypothetical attraction. Yomi then turns the spotlight on a startled Yoonseol, asking for her opinion on the matter. Before Yoonseol can respond, Junyoung deftly places a piece of grilled meat into her bowl, pointedly asking for her thoughts. Seokhyun quickly intervenes, asserting that serving Yoonseol is his responsibility, not Mr. Kang's, leaving Yoonseol caught in the middle. Yomi observes aloud that Seokhyun is always looking out for Yoonseol, often at his own expense. With a playful glint in her eye, Yomi turns to Mr. Kang and asks if Yoonseol and Seokhyun are a couple, while Junyoung maintains his neutral expression. Seokhyun laughs off the suggestion, casually draping an arm around a visibly uncomfortable Yoonseol, insisting they are merely the best of friends. Junyoung remarks coolly that true platonic friendship between a man and a woman is rare, especially when the woman is as attractive as Yoonseol, implying that feelings inevitably develop and Seokhyun would act on them. Yoonseol internally panics at Junyoung's provocative words, quickly suggesting he's had too much to drink and asserting the possibility of platonic bonds, even claiming she and Seokhyun find each other irritating. Seokhyun turns to Yoonseol, his usual joviality gone, and quietly, seriously, tells her that he doesn't find her annoying at all. In fact, he likes her. As the dinner concludes, Yomi and Yoonseol express their thanks to director Kang and Mr. Minjun before departing. Seokhyun offers to drive Yoonseol home, citing the late hour, but she politely declines. Junyoung smoothly interjects, stating that since their homes are in the same direction, he will take Yoonseol, catching her by surprise. Seokhyun points out Junyoung's alcohol consumption and renews his offer, but Junyoung counters by stating he will utilize the company's driver. Yoonseol aligns with Junyoung's plan, telling Seokhyun it would be more convenient for her to go with Mr. Kang. Yoonseol waves goodbye to a visibly disappointed Seokhyun, promising to see him tomorrow, as she leaves with Junyoung. Once in the car, Junyoung leans in, capturing Yoonseol's lips in a passionate kiss, murmuring his relief at finally being able to see her fully awake. A flustered Yoonseol gently pushes him back, questioning his sudden boldness. Yoonseol, her voice laced with frustration, asks if he finds her turmoil amusing, accusing him of unexplained anger followed by abandonment. Junyoung calmly denies ever leaving her. Her disbelief evident, Yoonseol recounts the elevator incident and his morning disappearances followed by his silent presence beside her at night, demanding an explanation. A flicker of understanding crosses Junyoung's face as he realizes Yoonseol had been genuinely asleep and unaware of his nocturnal visits. Yoonseol softly speaks his name, her anger softening. Yoonseol turns away, stating her desire to avoid any further misunderstandings between them. She vulnerably confesses that her constant preoccupation with her feelings for him only makes them grow stronger. Yet, she voices her fear that his current affection might just be a continuation of his teasing, stemming from their complicated situation, and gives him an out if he doesn't wish to reciprocate. Junyoung earnestly reassures her that his feelings are genuine, admitting he has liked Choi Yoonseol since the very beginning of their unconventional marriage. He looks at her with raw intensity, confessing that she now consumes his thoughts and he constantly craves her presence. The following morning, as they approach the TJ Corp building, Yoonseol suggests she exit the car before they reach the entrance to maintain discretion. Yoonseol expresses her concern about being seen together, prompting Junyoung to tease her about fearing Seokhyun's potential discovery. Exasperated by his repeated mentions of Seokhyun, Yoonseol reiterates their platonic friendship and questions Junyoung's lack of female friends. Junyoung's curt nope effectively ends that line of questioning. Yoonseol, sighing, proposes to enter the building first, but he firmly grasps her hand, preventing her departure. Junyoung playfully reminds her that she still owes him repayment, leaving Yoonseol looking back in bewilderment. Yoonseol, flustered, repeats her concern that it would be problematic if they were seen together. Junyoung explains his desire for a moment alone with her, given their limited interaction the previous day. Yoonseol protests, anxious about being late for work and attempts to pull away. Just as Yoonseol exits the car, Youngmi Sr. spots her with director Kang, her expression one of clear surprise. Youngmi Sr. approaches, directly asking why they were in the same vehicle, which startles Yoonseol. A blushing Yoonseol stammers an explanation about an accidental meeting and a shared ride, an excuse Youngmi Sr. seems to accept before cheekily advising director Kang to remove a lipstick smudge. Yoonseol makes a hasty escape, mortified, while Youngmi Sr. giggles behind her hand, and even Junyoung appears slightly flustered by the encounter. Later, at her desk, Seokhyun casually asks Yoonseol if she made it home safely the previous night. Yoonseol confirms she did and asks why he's asking, to which Seokhyun wonders aloud when she and Mr. Kang became so close. Seokhyun observes that she seems quite comfortable around Mr. Kang, a notion Yoonseol quickly dismisses as his imagination. Their conversation is interrupted as Youngmi Sr. tasks Seokhyun with retrieving documents, an assignment he readily accepts. Seokhyun watches Yoonseol from a distance, mulling over her uncharacteristic ease with Mr. Kang, questioning if the shared ride was the catalyst for this change. He continues to ponder their relationship, his expression troubled, wondering if his perceptions are accurate or merely overthinking. His thoughts become a whirlwind of doubt, questioning the closeness between Seol and Mr. Kang, then immediately dismissing the idea as impossible. Seokhyun is jolted awake by his older brother, who launches into a tirade about his late-night partying and irresponsible behavior. A still groggy Seokhyun vaguely recalls returning home around 2 a.m. His brother sternly reminds Seokhyun of the privilege of his college admission and issues an ultimatum: attend orientation or lose his credit card, much to Seokhyun's dismay. Seokhyun arrives on campus, muttering under his breath about the injustice of being reprimanded for celebrating his college acceptance. He manages to slip into the crowded orientation hall unnoticed, or so he hopes, and quietly finds a seat. A reflective pause considers the shift in circumstances, contrasting a past, more distant interaction between Junyoung and Yoonseol with their current dynamic. Back at the SOV office, Yoonseol is surprised to find Junyoung and asks what brings him there. Junyoung offers Yoonseol a coffee, which she initially declines out of caution, but he reminds her that Youngmi Sr. has already witnessed their connection. Yoonseol continues to express her concern about potential office gossip and urges him to be more careful, while Junyoung calmly enjoys his drink. Junyoung casually suggests that they could simply announce their marriage to avoid the need for such secrecy. Yoonseol strongly objects, reiterating her desire not to be treated differently due to her marital status, and questioning his change of heart from their initial agreement to maintain secrecy. Reluctantly, Yoonseol agrees to take the coffee if he promises to leave, but Junyoung playfully withdraws the cup, teasing her. Unseen by them, Seokhyun witnesses this intimate exchange, his eyes wide with shock as he questions the evident closeness between Seol and Mr. Kang. Seokhyun's mind races, contrasting Yoonseol's current familiarity with Junyoung to her usual reserved demeanor around men, recalling a specific instance of her maintaining distance. Youngmi Sr. discreetly whispers to a stunned Seokhyun that she suspects Yoonseol and director Kang are dating, citing their shared car ride as evidence. She further fuels his shock by recounting how she saw Yoonseol tenderly wiping something from director Kang's face, praising Yoonseol's boldness. Junyoung taps the coffee cup thoughtfully, then directly asks Yoonseol when she intends to inform Seokhyun about their marriage. He argues that while discretion with others is understandable, Seokhyun, as her friend, deserves to know. Yoonseol admits her hesitation, finding it more complicated than telling Jong-yoon. Junyoung insists that if her friendship with Seokhyun is purely platonic, she should tell him without delay, to which Yoonseol questions his sudden urgency, prompting his suggestion to discuss it at home. Junyoung reveals his true motive. He believes Seokhyun harbors more than friendly feelings for Yoonseol, referencing Seokhyun's own words from the company dinner. A flashback replays Seokhyun's earnest confession to Yoonseol that he doesn't find her annoying, but is, in fact, attracted to her. Returning to the present, Yoonseol attempts to downplay Seokhyun's confession, suggesting it doesn't necessarily indicate deep romantic feelings. Junyoung gazes at her intently, asking if she genuinely remains oblivious to Seokhyun's affections. He states unequivocally that Seokhyun views her as more than just a friend, a revelation that causes Yoonseol to look down, deep in thought. Yoonseol reflects on Junyoung's assertion, acknowledging Seokhyun's usual friendly demeanor, but now questioning if there's a deeper truth to Junyoung's insight. She wrestles with the dilemma of whether telling Seokhyun about her marriage would be a kindness, or if her continued silence would ultimately cause more harm. Yoonseol approaches Seokhyun, asking if he has some free time to talk after work. She explains she has something important to discuss, and Seokhyun replies with a smile that, coincidentally, he also has something to tell her. Junyoung sits in his office, reading a text message from Yoonseol confirming her intention to speak with Seokhyun that day, as he had urged. A brief flashback shows Seokhyun's heartfelt confession that he sees Yoonseol as more than just a friend. The memory continues, Yoonseol recalling his admission that these feelings have existed for a long time, her expression one of surprise. At their after-work meeting, Yoonseol admits to Seokhyun that she doesn't fully understand his feelings. She questions the timing of his confession, especially after her previous rejection, but Seokhyun explains his initial uncertainty and the suddenness of his prior attempt. Seokhyun reveals that witnessing her interactions with Mr. Kang stirred feelings of confusion and anxiety, ultimately leading him to recognize the true nature of his affection. Yoonseol processes this, realizing Junyoung's assessment was accurate, and internally resolves to tell Seokhyun about her marriage to prevent further complications. As Yoonseol begins to speak about Mr. Kang, Seokhyun passionately interrupts, pleading for a chance and asserting his deeper understanding of her and his ability to treat her better. Yoonseol gently tries to correct his assumption, but Seokhyun, misinterpreting her hesitation, offers to wait if she wishes to date someone else first. He earnestly takes her hands, reiterating his willingness to wait patiently for her. Yoonseol gently disentangles her hands, asking him to calm down and listen to what she has to say. She tells Seokhyun kindly that he doesn't need to wait for her, suggesting they remain friends. Then with a deep breath, she delivers the news. She is already married to Mr. Kang, leaving Seokhyun utterly speechless and devastated. Seokhyun, in disbelief, questions Yoonseol's sanity, insisting marriage is not a subject for jokes and warning her against Mr. Kang's supposed teasing. Junyoung's sudden appearance cuts through the tension. He confirms he initiated the marriage proposal, and it was entirely serious, his gaze fixed on Seokhyun. Junyoung gently takes Yoonseol's hand. Their intertwined fingers and wedding bands a clear testament to their union, as Yoonseol softly apologizes to a stunned Seokhyun. With undeniable finality, Junyoung states, "Choi Yoonseol is my wife now." Junyoung explains their decision to inform Seokhyun, citing his friendship with Yoonseol and their trust in him, despite their initial plan to keep the marriage secret until her graduation. Seokhyun stares at Yoonseol's ring, the reality sinking in. Junyoung leads Yoonseol away, suggesting Seokhyun needs time to absorb the news. Yoonseol offers a final, quiet apology to Seokhyun as they depart. Seokhyun remains rooted to the spot, his mind reeling in shock and disbelief, flashes of past moments now recontextualized by this revelation. He recalls various conversations and observations, Jeongyun's questions, Soojin's inquiries, that now seem like missed clues. The memories intensify. Yoonseol and Junyoung at dinner, Junyoung's offer to take her home, each recollection a fresh stab of realization for Seokhyun. He repeatedly berates himself, stupid, for his blindness to the signs that were there all along. Meanwhile, Miss No Soojin furiously demands an explanation from Mr. On as to why her spy has failed to secure her an internship at SOV. Mr. On attempts to soothe her, assuring her of her chances with Kang Junyoung, and relaying a rumor from his spy about Junyoung's growing closeness with an intern. Soojin's fury erupts at the news of a potential rival. Mr. On reassures Miss Soojin of the spy's competence and dedication to monitoring Kang Junyoung's every move, which slightly pacifies her. Miss Soojin instructs Mr. On to reward the spy handsomely, ensuring his continued loyalty and effectiveness. No Soojin smirks with chilling confidence, declaring that she always gets what she wants. Jeongyun casually asks Yoonseol if Seokhyun confessed his feelings to her. Jeongyun recounts her conversation with Seokhyun about the secret marriage, noting his silence regarding his own feelings for Yoonseol, which she finds hard to believe. She wonders aloud why Seokhyun would pursue a serious relationship with Yoonseol, leading Yoonseol to explain that seeing her with Junyoung acted as a catalyst for Seokhyun's realization. Jeongyun then pointedly asks if Mr. Kang is aware of Seokhyun's confession. Yoonseol confirms Junyoung's presence during the revelation and his direct confirmation of their marriage to Seokhyun, adding it was Junyoung's idea to tell him, much to Jeongyoon's surprise. Yoonseol expresses her worry over Seokyeon's absence from work, wondering if the news had a profound impact on him. Jeongyoon dismisses Yoonseol's concerns about Seokyeon, suggesting he simply needs time, and advises her to focus on Mr. Kang instead. Yoonseol, puzzled, asks what Jeongyoon means about Junyoung, who then implies Junyoung's motives for revealing the marriage were not about Seokyeon's feelings. Jeongyoon provocatively suggests that Mr. Kang doesn't care about Seokyeon's feelings, but rather wanted to assert his claim on Yoonseol. Jeongyoon playfully teases Yoonseol, remarking that her marriage seems to be progressing far more interestingly than anticipated, causing Yoonseol to sigh. Yoonseol glances at her phone, a worried frown creasing her brow, as she notes Seokyeon's continued silence to her messages. Lying in bed later, Yoonseol continues to fret over Seokyeon's lack of response, admitting her growing concern. Junyoung enters their bedroom, asking Choi Yoonseol if she is asleep, his voice startling her. Yoonseol assures him she's awake, prompting his inquiry about her clutching a pillow and whether she's feeling unwell. She vaguely mentions a stomachache. Junyoung gently checks her forehead for a fever, relieved to find none, and advises her to rest if she still feels unwell the next day. Yoonseol explains this discomfort is typical for her first day. His innocent confusion, first day of what, prompts Yoonseol to shyly inform him that she is on her period. Junyoung softly asks why she didn't mention it sooner, and tells her to let him know if the pain becomes too much. With a gentle invitation, Junyoung asks her to come closer, beckoning her to his side on the bed. Yoonseol then asks Junyoung how he so accurately discerned Seokyeon's deeper feelings for her. Junyoung explains that while words can be misleading, a man's actions ultimately reveal his true intentions, urging her to consider Seokyeon's consistent behavior towards her. Junyoung's tone shifts, questioning her sudden query and asking if Seokyeon's confession, coupled with his willingness to wait, is causing her to regret their marriage. He looks directly at Yoonseol, demanding to know honestly if she desires to accept Seokyeon's feelings. Yoonseol challenges him, asking if he would permit it if she said yes, to which Junyoung responds with an unequivocal "of course not, Choi Yoonseol." Yoonseol expresses her disappointment, stating that he should already know her feelings without needing to question them in such a way. Junyoung tenderly cups her face, his gaze softening as he gently asks her to tell him her feelings now. With heartfelt sincerity, Yoonseol looks into his eyes and confesses, "I love you." Her confession deepens, "I love you, Junyoung, I really love you. It's only you," her voice filled with emotion. A flicker of warmth in his eyes, Junyoung responds that if her words are true, she should show him her feelings. The next day at work, Yoonseol greets Seokyeon with relief, asking if he's all right and admitting her genuine worry about him. Yoonseol gently confronts Seokyeon about his silence, acknowledging she understands his reasons, but emphasizing their continued friendship and professional relationship. Finding Seokyeon on the stairs, Yoonseol apologizes for the belated revelation of her marriage, asserting that it shouldn't negate their friendship. Seokyeon listens silently, as Yoonseol explains her desire for secrecy and the rapid, overwhelming nature of the events. He finally speaks, asking for the full story, why they married, if they knew each other beforehand, prompting Yoonseol to begin her explanation from her initial proposal to him. Yoonseol clarifies that her proposal stemmed from her grandfather's illness and his wish to see her settled, and that Junyoung appeared after Seokyeon's rejection. Seokyeon notes her use of Junyoung's first name with surprise. Seokyeon questions the ease of their marriage, and Yoonseol describes it as fated, citing familial connections and shared goals as contributing factors. Seokyeon exclaims she should have confided the true reasons from the beginning. Yoonseol counters that their youth and potential family disapproval were concerns, even if he had agreed. Yoonseol concludes, the words carrying a weight of finality, that her marriage happened because her partner is, and could only be, Kang Junyoung, a statement that seems to hit Seokyeon hard. Looking directly at Seokyeon, Yoonseol offers a sincere apology for her secrecy, but firmly reiterates that her feelings for him are purely platonic. After a heavy silence, Seokyeon murmurs his understanding, but then, with a flicker of renewed hope, declares he will wait for her, Seol. He tells her that if her love for Junyoung ever fades, she should come to him. Yoonseol gently but firmly closes that door, stating that now that he knows about her marriage, their relationship will unequivocally remain one of friendship. She turns and walks away, softly telling him there is no need for him to wait, leaving Seokhyun to watch her go, his hope visibly dimming. The following morning, Seokhyun arrives at the office with an uncharacteristically bright and cheerful greeting for everyone. Secretary Yoon approaches Yoonseol, inquiring if she received a call from Director Kang regarding his arrival. Yoonseol confirms he requested hot coffee be sent to his room. Secretary Yoon instructs Yoonseol to prepare and deliver the coffee promptly, and Yoonseol acknowledges the task.